Roll call.
Good evening, Board of Directors. Brianne Mignoni, District Clerk. Director Pasternak.
Here.
Director Potter.
Here.
Director Roberts.
Present.
Vice President Axworthy.
Here.
And President Vickers.
Present. Next is the approval of the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda as written.
A second.
A motion and second to approve the agenda as written. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we'll have the invocation by Mr. Robert Hernandez.
Good evening, everybody. Can you please bow your head with me this evening? Father, we come before you this evening, thanking you for the start of a new year. As we start fresh, looking into the future of this coming year, I thank you for all the vision that is in this room, for people without vision paralyzed. So tonight, as they look to the future of Pueblo West and all its residents and businesses, I pray you give them a broad vision, not only to do the things that are called upon, to also do the things that are the visions that you've placed upon their hearts. I ask you to bring finance and the people to fulfill these visions. For Lord, we know you're the provider of every need. So today we ask you to be with us, to lead us, to guide us, and to strengthen us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
Next, the Pledge of Allegiance. Brian, would you lead us, please?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next is public comments. Bree, do we have any?
There have been no public comments submitted online or on the sheet, but is there anybody here in person that would like to make a public comment? No.
All right, thank you. Director's comments. We'll start with Brian.
Just want to say I apologize for not being at the last meeting. I saw it was a long one, so I'm sorry I missed that. But I appreciate you guys working in my stead. Thank you.
Mr. Greg?
I just kind of want to piggyback on Director Axworthy's comments back in December. We're accountable to our constituents, the taxpayers, and that in lieu of everything that's happening abroad in the United States with fraud, waste, and abuse, I want to ensure that we mirror accountability and transparency of this board and this governmental body. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Potter?
Nothing at this time. Thank you.
Mr. Pasternak?
Yep. I'm grateful to live in a district that is not in a budget deficit. That's it.
Amen to that.
Amen. Thank you. I'd just like to bring attention to our water department. Friday night, I was coming home. It was probably 8 o'clock, driving down Hans Peak, and there was a water break on right there by Gulfview. I can't remember the name of the street that it was on, but it was a pretty significant water break. There were a number of trucks there, backhoes, and these guys working. It's tough enough to work in cold weather. Work in cold weather and water. That really is miserable, and I want to commend them. I think that's a good testament to those guys. I know that that's their job, and there's we expect them to be there. But I just want them to know that I'm thankful that they are there, and that they respond, and they did a great job. So thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Okay, next is approval of the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
We have a motion seconded to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to action items. Resolution 2026, a resolution to revise the imposition of fines for covenant enforcement and procedures. Mr. Sean Winters, Director of Operational Support.
Good evening, President Vickers, Board of Directors. Sean Winters, Director of Operational Support. So at our last meeting, I brought to the board a discussion item on modifying or revising the imposition of fines for covenant enforcement procedures. As you recall, what we're really looking at is to revise that initial fine from $100 to $150 to align with the standards of the Pueblo County Treasurer. So that is basically what we're here for a action item for. I also want to point to something that I have added to this since you've seen it before as a result of directors' comments at the end of the last meeting in relationship to impartiality. I want to let you know that I did add a section in there that modifies that item 2 of attachment A. And basically what that section says now is, any member of COA hearing a particular matter shall not have any direct personal or financial interest in the outcome of the matter being decided. That was part of the original resolution. What we've added to that is, nor shall a member of COA who provides testimony or presents other evidence on a matter be allowed to decide that matter, but shall recuse themselves from the determination of that matter and shall be absent themselves from attendance at any consideration of the matter by COA. That was crafted by Carl. I think it's well written, and it is something that we have included in that resolution. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
No questions?
No questions.
I'll make a motion to approve the revision of the fines for covenant enforcement procedures.
Second motion.
I have a motion seconded, but I want to ask a question that just came to mind. So would you clarify, just for the public's sake, that the why we're going to the 150
Yes.
as opposed to the 100, so that they understand the reasoning for this?
Absolutely. So Pueblo County Treasurer will not collect on an amount less than $150. When we originally approved that resolution, we set that initial fine at 100. So if we were to try to submit a fine for $100, they would not collect it on our behalf. So this is just modifying it to align with being able to impose those initial fines.
And for further clarification, that collection only occurs after a default judgment, and that gives them, that's their authority to collect that minimum amount, right? They're not collecting our fines for us, it's only after a default judgment?
No, actually what happens is, after we have a determination of violation from COA, there is an initial $100 fine, because we've already gone through the process of sending them violation letters, notice of hearing. At that hearing, if there's a determination of violation, then we are imposing that $100 fine, and under this new resolution, it'd be $150. We give them 30 days to resolve the issue, and then we would add on to that an additional $400, totaling $500 as allowed for in the House bill. At a point in time when that fine has not been paid for at least 6 months, then we have the ability to then issue a notice of collection to Pueblo County Treasurer, and they will collect it on our behalf in the same way that they collect property tax.
Okay. Thank you. So I have a motion on the floor that's seconded to approve Resolution 2026, a resolution to revise the imposition of fines for covenant enforcement procedures. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sean. Next is the Board of Directors District Manager Expectations and Guidance document presented by Mr. Christian Hein, our District Manager.
Good evening, Board of Directors. Christian J. Hein, District Manager. So I'm following up. We've had a couple conversations around this guidance document, expectations document, just to codify what some of those relationships or expectations for ourselves and each other can be, both as a impromptu way to just be able to share a little bit more about this board's expectations and vision going into working with this board as your district manager, along with some follow-up from some of the feedback during the performance review. I think I did highlight as far as any additions that have occurred since the first time, and I think the last time it had been presented. which are just those two sections I mentioned at our last meeting. And then I did ask if there was any additional feedback prior to tonight, and I did not receive anything that came afterwards. So happy to answer any questions or allow a opportunity to either discuss it further or approve this to be an official guidance document between the board and the district manager.
You guys have any questions? Should we make a motion or? Any concerns?
No, this has been floating around now for a while, so.
Go ahead.
3C, board expectations of themselves, continuous governance education. Where would I find that? Or who can help me with that?
So a lot of times where we set up the professional development from the board is either through myself or Bree, our district clerk, when we're looking to either set up, the SDA, the Special District Association regional workshops, or if there's something that you identify as far as a class or something that helps facilitate your role on the board, we're happy to coordinate it. The only thing we probably would ask is keeping in mind budget season. We do budget that within the board's line item or line budget of 901. So understanding that ahead of time, if it's something outside of, outside of state, or if it was something even, what's the big one? Anything outside of Denver or the Vail. I think there's some common places that sometimes you see the more expensive versions of training. So that would be the only thing. And I think we probably hook everybody up with some resources as far as other ways to be able to identify some of those classes. So follow up after this.
Do we have anything on the books for this year? We're doing the retreat, or I don't know if it's a retreat.
Yeah, we do. We'll have our retreat. I think that we did budget, but I'll confirm. As far as those who may be interested in attending SDA, I think we budgeted last year the entire board. I just don't recall if we budgeted everybody this year to be physically in person for that one.
You don't have to be in person for the training either.
You
They
didn't
have virtual webinars and such.
That can include, it's not limited to us going around the district ourselves like we've been doing sometimes and meeting with the other department heads and stuff like that and just walking around and getting to know our area of operations.
Yeah, I think we encourage that. As far as professional development, if it's a actual training or something like that,
Okay.
happy to coordinate. If it's something that's like, hey, we're trying to develop ourselves locally, understand the operational environment, understand our folks and our services, that's still definitely a part of education, but probably not at least a cost associated with it. Hopefully not. I don't know if the department heads are charging you.
I thought about that.
Under roles and responsibilities of the district manager, these are all, a lot of these are set forth in the bylaws, I'm assuming. Some of these,
I think you'll see in the bylaws areas of expectations where it's probably more general, where it says district manager assists as either chief executive officer, chief administrative officer, or in the job description, supports strategic planning for the board of directors. This describes each function a little bit more to kind of clarify what that exactly means and why they're a district manager responsibility. None of them deviate from the bylaws. There's just added context.
okay, so, strategic planning, decision-making, communication, those, I mean, all of these can be reassessed. This isn't, the district manager makes major organizational decisions, including those that affect the district resources, finances, and operations. Is this carte blanche? Is there guiding?
No, at the very top, it talks about references, and the bylaws are specifically referenced in other policies, so any of those that would be applicable would be constraining any of those
Okay,
responsibilities
and
within.
the board can make alterations at any time to those guidelines?
To these?
These or in the bylaws? they
Of
can
course,
make-
yes.
Okay.
A lot of those seem, like under that same section, they seem similar to our roles and responsibilities, I thought when I read it.
Yeah, I think there's definitely overlap, or more so than has been historic, because of the transition previously the district manager was a chief administrative officer. They were seen as essentially the internal face, the internal organizer. In the recent transition, when we lost Public Works, as we transitioned into the way that we were operating, that conversation came up about transitioning that district manager from chief administrative to chief executive officer to almost act in such a manner, delegated and with the approval of the board through bylaws and actual expectations are outlined, to be able to act independently under those guidelines to make sure that they're following the board's, I think, vision and strategic guidance, but act as the agent to be able to do that. So it elevated that president and chief executive officer role. Hadn't previously been here, so there's a lot more ownership on me in that role. So that's where there is overlap, but it doesn't deny that the board is ultimately responsible for everything. And that's where that responsibility to delegate or to dictate what that chief executive officer is supposed to do.
Can you explain Hanlon's razor teachings?
I'd love to. It's one of my favorite ones. Hammond's
Right.
razor is,
Got
and
them going now.
you got me going. Philosophical razors are a way to be able to assess information by shaving off. It's why they call it a razor. Different things, so that way you're not trying to take the whole gamut of how do I assess something. Hanlon's razor is never assume malice what can be explained with ignorance. Stupidity, not an education, it could be anything. Because the idea of if you and I have an exchange and I say something that potentially offends you, if you find and assume I meant to offend you, you'll probably treat me with disdain or defensive-ness because you're thinking I meant that, when in reality I might have just been careless, dumb, uneducated on something that could potentially offend you. So it goes into that idea of being curious. Like, at the end of the day, if somebody says something to me and it might be offensive, Hanlon's razor teaches us to ask the question and assume that maybe they just didn't know, and try to ask more questions about it to determine, rather than assume malice from the beginning, because real malice is pretty rare in all forms, fashion. A lot of times we're just human beings talking to each other and not realizing something that could offend somebody came out of our mouth. So that's Hanlon's razor.
So does this come from a governmental position, or is this a private ideology?
I don't think that there's any government mandates or anything involved with that being an expectation. This is a personal philosophy that I found useful within the position.
Okay. Well, I just want to make sure we're not using our position or our government email or social media accounts to push an ideology.
I don't,
I would not expect that from my constituents or anybody else, although we do have the freedom of speech. We are representing the Pueblo West Metro District government entity. So,
I'd share it's probably just public information. Some people adopt into their leadership styles, and it's just a personal and professional expectation I have, I think, for myself and our folks, but it's one that I'm encouraging that we have as well. So I promise there's no hidden ideology or organization involved with that.
well, some people look at a religion as being an ideology, so,
It's kind of like a commander's philosophy. If you have a commander, they have their own philosophy, so they develop their own philosophy based on those concepts. I don't see anything wrong with it. He's not pushing it on anybody as far as.
I just never,
Yeah,
I think
I
I've
got
heard
it.
of it once from you before.
Yeah.
In an email, but, I never asked any questions about it, but, I was just curious.
Well,
I wanna make sure that we're keeping, information that's in this governmental document that is, pertinent to its identification as far as the, expectations.
It's fair. And if I could even say, you just practice Hanlon's razor there by being curious and asking the question about it, so I appreciate that.
I would say also there's also biblical counterparts to Hanlon's razor that go hand in hand with that philosophy.
That's also true.
Now you perked my curiosity.
Send
me a link.
The only thing I would, I just wanna make sure and double check on this, because, you're more like a liaison for us when it comes to interorganizational relationships. So you go out there and you, develop relationships. You don't make any decisions on how we operate within those relationships, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I would say that anything that takes a intergovernmental agreement is always at the authority of the board of directors. developing relationships with county manager or the sheriff's office. Those are things I think within my purview that can benefit the organization and may have an operational impact, but there's no long-term commitments that I think that I would be authorized to unless it's delegated by the board of directors.
Right, like, because, like, some of that, like the thing we dealt with in the past where somebody made a promise that you couldn't keep, and it became an issue or something like that.
Oh, yes. If there's any situation that requires the board's investment in decision-making when it comes to an asset or anything like that,
But
that
when
requires the
dealing
board.
with, like, the county commissioners or dealing with the sheriff's office and all, and that kind of thing, you can make some pretty hefty decisions when it comes to them, asking them for resources and so on and so forth. Okay, that makes sense.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you.
Of course.
Thanks, Christian.
Thank you.
And this is a action item, correct?
It is, yes.
I'll make a motion to approve the Board of Directors' expectations of the district manager's guidance document.
Second. A motion second to approve the Pueblo West Metropolitan District guidance document. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Christian. Next, we move on to discussion items. The resolution approving the implementation of a grading permit and associated fees, presented by Sean Winters, the Director of Operational Support.
Good evening, Director Vickers, board members, Sean Winters, Director of Operational Support, and with me tonight is Sherry Reed, our Manager of Project Development. And Sherry has put together a staff report on modifying our public works fees or our inspection fees, and I will turn that over to Sherry.
Good evening. We had a fee structure for stormwater inspections and inspection fees back in 2019 that was approved. Since then, we no longer do access permits. Our main inspection is the stormwater and detention pond inspections and construction BMP inspections, which is erosion and sediment control features. And what we would like is to establish a grading permit and this fee structure so commercial and multifamily development pays for these services from us. We want to be self-sustaining in that aspect. So we came up with the grading permit. We did some research of areas, Pueblo County, City of Pueblo, Colorado Springs, Canyon City. What we found is Pueblo County and the city are not self-sustaining. There's no way their fees will pay for the services that they provide. However, the city of Colorado Springs appears to have taken a closer look at things and is more in line with what we felt our services are and our fees should be. So we came up with the fee structure based on the acreage of each site. If it's less than an acre, they are not required to have a state stormwater permit. However, we are still responsible to inspect the site and inspect detention ponds annually, inspect the BMPs that are on site during construction. So we went with a fee of $540, where City of Colorado Springs was $604.25. And then it incrementally increased from there. So we go from there to 1 to 5 acres, and then from 5 acres and above. And then we have a couple of fees that we would implement if they started work without their permit. There would be a fee or a fine. And if we had to issue a stop work permit order, there would be a fine to reinstate their permit. We took a look at all of the costs associated with the personnel their fringe benefits, the time spent, and that's how we came up with the fees. Do you have anything to add?
No.
We came up with how many inspections we would perform in a 6-month period, and that is the length that that the permit would last. If they weren't done with construction within that 6-month period, they would renew their permit for another 6 months at the same cost that they were issued that permit.
And to add to that a little bit, on all of these projects that disturb more than 1 acre, our MS4 permit requires us to perform a stormwater inspection every 45 days. And so that's how we can calculate in a 6 months period of time how many inspections we should have.
I have a few questions. Let's define disturb. Okay. Are we talking about mowing operations or?
No,
No. It is
grading.
typically grading operations, and can be if they're bearing off the vegetation off of the surface with traffic as part of their construction efforts, that would be included in the definition of disturb.
So if someone has 5 acres and they wanna put a 1 acre garden in,
Well, this would
This
also
is-
be
Commercial.
commercial.
only commercial?
Right, just commercial.
So is everybody else gonna be grandfathered in on this and?
It's
this is gonna
commercial
apply-
and multifamily.
Well, I saw the multifamily part, that's why I was asking.
Yeah, so this is only if you have an active construction project.
Okay, all right, just wanted to clarify that, so. Thank you.
Do we have anywhere where it stipulates the time frame for once a request for a permit is submitted to our office, how long that should take before it's actually completed?
You know, a lot of times when they're getting their permit, they will put a time frame in their permit to CDPHE. And sometimes it takes longer than that. I was gonna say most of the time they underestimate the length of the project. So it's not necessarily a great guideline. But that is one document that we also look at when we perform our inspections.
Are you saying like how long it would take us to issue the permit?
Yeah, so we're holding contractors accountable for starting the work prior to receiving the permit, but what's the accountability on our end? If they, once they submit a request for a permit,
So
How long
they'll
does it take?
submit their drainage report and their construction drawings to us to review, and we give them a 10-day turnaround on that. Once those are approved, then they're able to apply for their grading permit. If everything has been approved, their drainage report and everything, then it will be issued in a matter of 24 hours.
and we have that written somewhere?
No, but we can add that.
Yeah, typically, if we kind of hold the same standard that we had on our right-of-way and access permits, if you make application, you should have that approved by the end of the next business day, which I think is reasonable.
And my only other, sorry, I only have one other question. So given the 2019 fee structure, obviously we're not doing the roads anymore. But when it comes to the stormwater and the grading erosion control line items, how does this new permit process override those?
Well, we would be, I guess, overriding the 2019 resolution. And you see probably on the very last page of our packet, it was very extensive in terms of the things that we did inspect, that we no longer inspect on behalf of the district for other contractors. We now really inspect district projects only, capital projects only. So we're really resetting the fees and establishing a permit to go along with that. And we would have that permit in place before we'd sign off on the building permit.
Okay,
to
so
move
that
forward.
fee structure is all null and void
Yes.
Correct.
once this is approved? Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Do you currently have the assets available? Employees, vehicles, you got enough assets available to incorporate this?
Yes, we're currently doing this work. We're just not getting
Any
funding
revenue
for
out of it?
Correct.
Okay.
So we're just trying to provide a way to make it development pay for the cost of development.
And to avoid the taxpayer subsidizing development.
What does the inspection entail? Because we're talking about detention ponds, right? So we have elevations that need to be maintained, we have, so do we have the expertise to
So
We
verify
do.
that?
Yeah, so there's two types of inspections. One is construction inspection. So as they're disturbing the soil and developing that, we send guys out and they take a look at their stormwater management plan, all of the stormwater devices, erosion control devices that their plan said needed to be there.
Mhm.
We ensure that they are in fact there. And then we go out and check, like I said, every 45 days to make sure that their plan and what is in the field is still current. The other type of inspection is post-construction inspection. So that is the ongoing inspection of detention and water quality ponds that you see throughout the community and commercial applications. And that is an inspection to ensure that they are maintaining that pond and it is in good working order.
New ones though, specifically new ones, somebody checking that the embankments are the right height, the spillways at the right
Yes.
spot.
Yeah. So, and just for clarification, the construction permits are what we're really going after here. There's no real great mechanism for going after inspection fees post-construction because the ponds are already there, they've
Right.
been there for years. I have not been able to figure out how to collect those kind of fees.
Those are typically funded through an enterprise, like a stormwater enterprise, where it's collected annually from taxes, from commercial.
Right.
But we don't have that, so we're just looking for construction related.
Okay, I just want to make sure they understand that they're getting something for this fee. It's not,
Yes.
it's not just a fee.
Sure.
You mean kinda like our property taxes that go up every year? And nobody drove by or knocked on your door to assess the value of your property?
Yeah, I was gonna say, technically it's the property value that's going up every year, making the taxes go up.
Which, I had a call today, stormwater related, so any issues that are stormwater related as far as drainage on lots and stuff, is that us? Or is that going to, we're in charge of the MS4 still, right?
Yes,
So we do that?
yes.
Yes, but it doesn't really apply to residential properties. But there is some guidelines in our declaration of reservations in terms of unnatural drainage. That could be a covenant violation. If we have a situation where we have one property owner that is sending more water to their neighbor or to public right of way than what originally or historically had been discharged there, then that could be determined to be an unnatural drainage.
Right, but if it's a existing drainage ditch that goes off and it's not functioning properly and you have water that's backing up onto, it's a vacant lot that somebody wants to develop, but if the drainage is not working right, it could be a problem. Who would I suggest that they talk to?
They can call me
Okay.
or send an email to me,
Okay,
and we'll take a look at it.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, and they can always go online and go to How Do I and report a concern, and that will eventually get to Sherry and her group,
Okay.
and then we'll create a ticket and we'll try to get it resolved.
All right, thank you. Appreciate that, wasn't sure how all that's working with.
Is it
Thank
okay to share a little bit more about the stormwater, how it's worked so far?
Sure.
So absolutely, if there is a ticket or concern, going to our team will help to process it. In, I think it was 2023 into 2024, we did agree with the county, those situations that do exist with drainage, earthworks, or anything out there, ideally to start with them because they're gonna have the materials and the earthwork or the equipment to be able to address any issues. And if county felt like it was our responsibility for whatever reason, it was our land or it involved coming off of property onto something that might be the district owned, we would agree at those points at least to do it collaboratively, where oftentimes they'll do the physical labor or they'll contract labor, but we'll pay half for those. So whichever way it comes into it, happy to, but a lot of times the county will take the lead.
Okay.
And we'll just coordinate that,
All right, thank you, appreciate that.
of course.
So there is a resolution included in your packet, and so if the board was so inclined, to move to an action item or not, we'd really be up to you.
I see no reason to postpone it if you guys don't have any objections or questions or concerns.
We had that one property out here, out towards Swallows and, Woodstock, where their driveway was like 2.5 feet underwater every time it rained or snowed, and it melted. And I know I talked to them personally. I told them, I says, well, the county's most likely responsible for that mitigation. And I'm trying to find it here. I think it was back in December.
I do, is it okay to?
You recall that?
I do. I think I remember seeing pictures in it, and I think it was the swale over the.
I know you guys responded, and I was impressed with the response, but it pretty much lined up with the same thing I told them. We gotta go back to the county for that, so.
Yeah, I think the clear responsibilities is if it's in the right of way, the county's taking care of it, period. The questions often come when it's either exiting or entering from a area that might have a drainage easement that the district owns that property, or it might be on private property where there are questions that sometimes come up. But those ones that are actually in the rights of way, very much county.
And like I explained it to them, well, like the elevation of their neighbor's property slid forward to the ditch, so the ditch is hardly even there anymore, and it's blocking that water from draining off properly. So, I don't know where they're at on that, they haven't called me back, so.
Gotcha. I don't know if you had any other.
I haven't heard anything new on that.
Anybody have any objections? You wanna keep this as
They've been
discussion,
dealing
or
with
do
it
you wanna
for-
move it forward?
At least 6 years.
Do you wanna keep this as a discussion, or do you wanna move it forward? If you wanna move it forward, I need a motion.
I'll make a motion to move item J1 from discussion item to action item and approve the resolution of the implementation of a grading permit and associated fees.
I seconded it with the amended proposal to add the 24 hours after completion for the permit, or the,
End of the next business day?
Yes.
is that okay to do it that way? As long as we.
Yeah. So I'll restate the motion. Yeah. So I have a motion to approve or move, item J1, resolution approving the implementation of grading permit and associated fees, and the next day approval,
End of next.
end of next day,
End of business.
the next day approval for such permit, from a discussion item to an action item. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have the 2025 amended budget. Is that the one where we're $10 million in debt?
It's pretty lengthy.
This is Karen Cordova, our Director of Finance.
Good evening, President Vickers and Vice President Axworthy, board members. This evening, I'm bringing forward a discussion to amend the 2025 budget. A little bit of history for those who are newer to the board. A budget is usually more than likely amended sometime during the year. We normally amend it at the end of the year. Thankfully, we don't have a lot of reasons to amend the budget. This year, in July, I brought forward the excess from the Tabor funds that needed to be transferred from the general fund over to the capital projects fund for the aquatic center. But I didn't formally revise the budget at that time. So that is included in this amended budget. So, along with that, there's also a small amount that we need to increase the budget for, and I'm discussing the general fund budget. So, we would be amending the general fund budget to account for the Tabor excess funds and for a few additional expenses in vehicle repairs, vehicle parts and maintenance, and IT costs, some insurance costs. And those increases were due to the fact that we zero-based budgeted in 2025. We came pretty close, but just don't want to have to come back to you later in the year after the audit's all done and say, we need another amendment. So I'm including those adjustments now. And also, we would be increasing the revenue in the capital projects fund to accept the Tabor excess. By law, you have to amend the budget anytime that you transfer money from one fund to another, or if you have unexpected revenues or unexpected expenditures. So that's the reason we need to amend the 2025 budget. Also, you cannot exceed expenditures in a budget, or you illegally do that.
Get in trouble.
Yeah, it's illegal.
So the 1.86, the 1,861,321 is more money than we anticipated collecting.
That was the excess
Yeah.
revenues for Tabor, yeah.
From
Yeah, so we just need to move it.
24, right?
From, yeah.
Yeah, after the audit.
Yeah. We just need to make that transfer from one fund to another. Any other?
On the contracted vehicle repairs, are we talking about our fleet vehicles?
You know, actually, most of those costs are probably fire trucks because they're so expensive. And we used to have a fleet department, so it was an internal service fund. Let me just say, it was the internal service fund. So we did our own repairs. I believe 2025 is the first year we actually had to take those out to be repaired. So we did our best estimates on what it would cost. And they're, you know, a little bit higher than what we had anticipated. We're kind of getting a feel for what those costs are. And insurance, that, you know, it depends on what the insurance.
Well, I'm just trying to
company
get a
charges.
grasp on our fleet vehicles. I mean, to me, when you have a leased fleet vehicle, it comes with a maintenance plan attached to it. So you're saying this is from the fire department?
The majority, but it is all the other vehicles as well. We do have to maintain our fleet vehicles.
So we don't
So-
have a maintenance plan with those?
Yeah,
Okay.
do you want to answer?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So any of our enterprise fleet management vehicles do have either a cost included with their monthly bill that includes any certain within warranty maintenance costs that come with it. I think there is coverage additionally for some of our client-owned vehicles that are non-apparatus or heavy equipment that fleet services or the enterprise fleet services would provide. The majority of costs are probably the fire apparatus, and then I don't know if there's a dump truck or anything that's been involved with any
The back truck.
vac truck, thank you. Those will be where a lot of those outsourced ones aren't covered within the program oftentimes occur. And then if Sean, if you have anything you'd want to add, obviously you can invite, but that covered it. You can.
If they're good with that, I'm good with that.
That's fair
So
enough.
is there any verbiage in the 6C to absorb that?
I believe the 6A for the fire sales
Six-
tax,
Okay.
no, it's okay, does cover operational costs when it comes to the overall fire department, and when those costs are associated with what 6A actually procured, meaning the Station 2 and the firefighters who are on that side of it, or any of the vehicles brought towards it. To my knowledge, I don't think any of the old trucks are involved with that. It's mostly anything that would be new purchased with it.
And when you're talking about enterprise vehicles, are we talking about the ones with the water enterprise?
There are, so when referring in this conversation enterprise, it's enterprise fleet management. There are
Okay.
leases, and the most leases we have are the water and wastewater enterprise. So that is a little bit confusing there, but
That's why I asked the question, I
Yep,
want to
that's
clarify.
fair.
So, since we're on vehicles and water enterprise at the moment, how do they maintain their vehicles?
The majority of their enterprise fleet vehicles are in that system. I don't know if they have any client-owned vehicles, which are the ones that we have owned that are still being that phase process. So they're under the same management program as all the other vehicles in the district. In fact, they have the majority of vehicles within the district, so they're probably the most relevant to that conversation.
Do we have a fleet vehicle contract that's, up for renewal?
We do have a fleet management contract. I don't know its renewal date off the top of my head, or if it's evaluated as is. And then there are individual contracts with each vehicle that is leased. That is part of that.
Yeah, could we get that information?
Of course, I think we're scheduling something to actually discuss within this first quarter as part of that report I provided.
Yeah, that'd be nice to have. Okay, thank you.
And that came out of the questions regarding the budget.
Yep.
Yep.
So, and just to share, I think the board's all aware, sent in my district manager update this past weekend, shared that I think we're scheduling first quarter to have a conversation, diving into that and share information. And we'll see if we can't get the, her name is Nate, she's the strategic manager for enterprise, see if she can join us for that conversation too. Just to understand the overall program and how it benefits the district, or if there are any advantages, disadvantages.
Now, we do have employees out at the old Station 2, right?
We do have.
Doing repairs?
Yes, so we do use the old Station 2, the one on Avenida Del Rio, yep,
Which
to be able to facilitate our fleet coordinator and their role in repairing vehicles, so that way they have a space outside of the weather and the elements that can ideally fit multiple vehicles, or at least a vehicle, and work inside, especially during inclement weather. We have, and this is off topic, I apologize, but we have tested other locations within the district, including current fire stations and the other building outside of 280 that we still own, but those just present challenges.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
So in conclusion, we present these changes to you, then we have to post a public hearing, present the changes to the public, give them the opportunity to come back and question us, or to review any changes. And then after that, we adopt the amended budget. So that will be at the next board meeting, correct? Or the one after
It
that?
would be the one after, 'cause we
Okay.
have to give notice in the, chieftain.
45 days or, no,
I think it's 10.
let's just 10.
So I have to do that, but then we have to leave it in there for, it's just 10 days. It's
Yeah.
just 10 days, okay. Next one, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on, we have,
I did have one other question on the IT cost. Can you tell me where that was generated? What generated that increase?
I don't know if you, IT, if there was specific, anything related to the IT cost increase?
Oh, specific was really like software, where we didn't have, geez, you know what, I really don't, I have to get back to you on that one, because I'm thinking it was software and we just didn't budget enough, because we had it in the other fund, in the internal service fund, so there was IT.
I'm not trying to make you stumble here, but
No, no.
I think that with the information that we're being provided, and we're gonna amend something, each of those line items should have, an explanation
Uh-huh.
of where that cost came from? And
So-
how it came about to that?
Previously, we had an internal service fund which consisted of fleet, maintenance, and IT. So in 2024, that was the last year we had that, and we got rid of the internal service fund and brought it all into the general fund. So previously, those costs were allocated from the internal service fund to every department, so we really didn't have a good feel of how much was gonna come over to the general fund. So when we budgeted, you know, based on what we knew at the time, and there were a couple of different costs that we didn't capture because it was kind of socked away over in that internal service fund.
And we determined in one of the budget sessions that we have a district IT allocation and a departmental IT allocation. So like Water Enterprise may use additional software beyond the general fund, so that would be a departmental IT cost. Does that make sense?
Yeah, Director Roberts, I think you asked a fair question. That's opening a deep conversation that's probably happened over the past couple of years. As Karen identified, our internal services fund was its own fund managed by different department, either heads or division heads within it. That transition that we took accompanied a lot of change in management. So the folks who were then responsible for budgeting within that next year didn't have data or didn't have a left seat, right seat with somebody who would have been able to inform how we came up with those numbers. So they made best guesses of their budget estimates that we're finding out were probably not, especially going through the zero-based, as consistent as what we expected when it came to the expectation of how much it might cost within a year. And during that, as we went through zero-based, we also recognized that different people were budgeting in different line items. For instance, what meant outside service, your Google software might be in one person's budget that is in IT software for somebody else. So we went through a whole process of aligning all that. I think going through zero-based recognized we did miss things that we didn't catch during that. So now we're finding out that those were things that we did either adjust or we found ourselves in this budget cycle having corrected.
Well, I just think with each one of these, line items 65, 57, contracted vehicle repairs, a detailed explanation of what caused that. Same thing with each of the other ones. Definitely would give you less talking points up there, less time at the podium per se, but I think that's information that everyone needs.
That's fair. And I think from her perspective, seeing just those line items going over is where that answer comes from. I think with our new position for that senior accountant will help a lot with more of our budget estimate and analysis that comes with that too. So I think we'll be able to provide better answers.
Yeah, I just don't want to rubber stamp it and say, yeah, we're golden, but then in the long run, when you don't really know how we came about to that.
Fair.
And our constituents deserve to know that. Thank you.
So, to be clear, you want a detailed analysis of the expenditures and versus what was budgeted?
Not analysis, you could say like, on IT, okay, we had to replace, 11 laptops due to a internet, communication hack that happened, okay? Or whatever, just an explanation of what caused this, to amend that portion of the budget.
To get back to what Brian said earlier, Director Axworthy, when we were budgeting, we probably shorted budget just not knowing about some costs. So I will identify those as well. And like Christian said, we had changes in directors, so we've been chasing those costs to.
Right, but I'm just saying in the future as we go forward.
Oh, in the future? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, you've given a good explanation sitting here.
Okay.
Don't
Yeah.
get me wrong, it's just that
Our intention
I
is to
think as
bring
far as,
you those analysis.
transparency and to the public, if we
Mhm.
were to publish this, they would look at that line item and goes, well, geez, how do you come about that?
Mm-hmm,
You see what I'm saying?
mm-hmm.
So I just for, our constituents and having a better understanding of those contracted vehicle repairs, vehicle parts and materials, insurance. I think everybody who owns a vehicle knows that insurance just keeps going up. So, but, and then maybe with insurance, I mean, did we have some vehicle collisions that we were at fault and we end up paying, beyond insurance, other settlements? But I don't think we would've heard about that already.
I think that's general insurance, general liability, right?
Yeah, general liability, okay. But, just like I said, in the future, moving forward, when we come for something like this, just a brief explanation detailing how we got to this point.
Quarterly, probably quarterly or something, once we get our senior accountant.
Yeah, I'm just asking to incorporate that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you, Karen.
Next is the Board of Directors Organization evaluation of directors by Mr. Christian Hine.
Good evening again, board. So coming for this conversation, specifically to talk about the survey. At the last meeting we discussed, and I think it was a strategic discussion, the board, I think there was 3 things we talked about: the board retreat, the survey, and a potential roundtables with employees. During that conversation, I think we identified we'd like to do that survey ahead of the roundtables if possible. I think we identified doing either pairs. I think just to share the intent would probably be 2 pairs, and then the president by himself, so he gets all the fun solo.
Wait, what?
That's fair. Just to share and open to feedback on this, with the feedback about having those employee roundtables, doing it with not a quorum of the board, not doing it as full board, but trying to schedule around people's schedule. Probably the easiest way to do it would be 2 pairs, meaning, let's say, Director Pasternak and Director Potter, and then Director Roberts and Vice President Axworthy, and then the President, President Vickers himself. So 3 separate instances, but that would leave you alone as long as you're fair and okay with that. But tonight, the conversation is about the survey, and I think there was questions and intent of potentially providing feedback of what those survey questions could be and adjusting before we go forward. This is just a discussion item, but just to share, I think when we talked about it, each board member was identifying whether they wanted to propose different questions, alter questions. So I haven't yet received any feedback on that, so I'm representing these currently just to see what next steps you would like before we potentially prepare it.
So
We're gonna let Brian take the lead on this.
I have loads. Reading through the questions, I had some concerns regarding a lot of them. Number one, the strategic vision. I tried to align this with the document that we just approved during this meeting regarding our expectations, but I think it's dangerous for the complete strategic vision to be held on the board's shoulders, especially when the members rotate every 2 years. So I think that a better question involving strategic vision would be, does the strategic plan adequately capture and represent the needs of the district?
Okay.
I second that.
Sounds good.
Policy clarity. Let's see. The question is, as it stands, are the policies and resolutions passed by the board easy to understand and implement at your level of work? So, from a board's perspective, I would think that we would need to be supplied the implementation timeline and the specific strategy from the administrator presenting that resolution in order for us to have a part of the clarity in the enactment of that resolution to the rest of the staff. So we may approve the resolution in this meeting, but that doesn't mean that we're dictating what needs to happen next to the staff. So how does that correlate?
Okay.
If I could add just one thing, is we don't draft the resolutions.
Right.
We don't come up with the wording. We, vote to generally approve of what was said, but I think.
Yeah. So to put that responsibility on us, we would need even more information on how that resolution is gonna come to be or come to pass. Does that make sense?
Yes. I think, and just to share, these are, to be fair, generated questions expecting that to start the conversation. They're not necessarily proposed as in the buy-in is existing, that those are the existing ones we should use. So the first one capturing a question identifying, does the current strategic plan capture what is expected of the strategic, or the feedback on the strategic plan for the efficacy?
Yeah,
of
I
the
can
district?
give you this after.
Appreciate
That's
that.
fine.
And the second one, is there an alternative for how you would like that phrased, or do you think that's a hard question to phrase based on the responsibility currently of the board?
Second one?
Yes,
Yeah.
the policy clarity one.
Yeah, because it's really putting the onus on that understanding when we didn't draft it.
Yeah, we approved the resolutions for implementation, but we also asked for modifications to them before signing them.
understand what the guy at the water department's doing and their level of work, I wouldn't know that.
Can I challenge a little bit of my understanding for that question and what it might be asking? The board is seen as the policymaker for the district, as far as they will sometimes draft, sometimes not, sometimes obviously it comes from us. But they will generally approve all policies within the district for how it will operate. That can be everything from one specific resolution dictating, for instance, the fee structure tonight. It could be the personnel policy. But those are, and they're in the bylaws, codified as board responsibilities for policy, especially when it comes to overall district. Departments might have their own policies of more standard operating procedures of how they might do certain things, but they're not overall policies in the same way that a personnel policy, potential fleet policy might exist that are ultimately at the board's discretion. So I think the question about the policy and the clarity of it might be a fair one to ask for the board, but it might be not clarity of itself. It might be, are they involved with the policy in such a way, that benefits the district? Are they potentially approving policies that aren't effective and have to be reviewed multiple times because they are coming with language that is challenging? Because if we're recognizing that's a board responsibility to approve it, then that clarity falls with the board to understand before it is approved.
Clarity of purpose.
Clarity and purpose.
So we do create policies, but this has and conjunction in there and resolution. So does that mean, are you talking about resolutions pertaining only to policies, or are you talking about all resolution? Because that's what that says, is policies and resolutions.
So it could exclude resolutions, because I would probably agree that someone understanding what a resolution says at the line level might not be as important as are the things carried out in the form of a resolution afterwards. And this is talking specifically about clarity in this. So either the question being phrased such a way that the average person who is going to be exposed and experience a policy that directly affects them, personnel, fleet, you could expand it to things like the strategic plan, but depending on how you want to approach it, it's identifying a board core function of policy approval or creation, and whether there's an evaluation of how that is happening and any feedback that's associated with it. So easy to understand, implementing a level work might not be the right way for somebody to provide feedback. It could be, are there policies that exist that cover all things that the board is expected to be able to provide policy on? Are there things that are missing? There's different ways, I think, to approach it, but it depends on how you want to be evaluated, what you might think is a fair evaluation.
It doesn't, do you think that also leaves room for subjectivity? Because some folks understand things easier than other folks. So there's a level of interpretation that we wouldn't have any control over, or even can design design something that maybe everybody understands clearly. I'm just,
Yeah, I
it
think,
seems to me there's a lot of things in here that put a lot of onus, and I'm okay with being in charge or being responsible for what I pass, for me to understand it. Whether or not someone else understands it, I can't be responsible for that, or the board.
yeah, we definitely need to rewrite the question, whether it's, you're looking for clarity of purpose in terms of policy and resolution creation and adaptation, that's fine. Within the expectation and guidance document, it says that the district manager is expected to successfully execute all adopted policies. So I would say we have to, and you're really our only employee, so we need to somehow factor all of that into that question.
Carl
Yeah,
also.
Well, Carl, sorry.
Don't leave
I'm
Carl
sorry.
out.
Sorry, Carl.
You got
You
quoted.
doubled the amount of
We
employees.
didn't leave you out.
What's that?
You doubled the amount of employees in that last statement.
Sorry.
Yes, I think from the execution perspective, removing that from the evaluation, because that might be the district manager as identified in the expectations document. That's more the force behind that and the evaluation purpose.
Could-
Policy creation or the evaluation of policy and understanding whether it is something being reviewed might be the board more so as part of a responsible party when it comes to that.
Yeah, we're all responsible for the approval of any resolution or policy presented to us, and that's our job, but
So even,
So
sorry.
are we asking the employees, to me, should be asking the employees if they understand and approve of the current Metro District governmental employee policies, code of conduct.
So, I think there's
all
value,
that stuff
yeah,
that's in the 31 bullet point
yeah.
pamphlet.
There's definitely value in evaluating policies. This one is specifically evaluating the board. And I can give you a potential, or proposal that might be slightly different than this one that might capture what we're looking for, which is, does the board, do we feel that the board understands the policy before they approve it? Is there an evaluation of that?
That's a fair question,
Yeah.
you know. It doesn't lead, yeah, I think that's a fair question.
Okay. Appreciate that. We were going down a rabbit hole with that one.
All good.
Number 3, the
We
resource.
left a lot of paths to try to find out.
Yeah. Well, and it's all subjective, as Bill mentioned. Do you feel the board effectively advocates for, which I didn't much care for that. I'd like to change it to, do you feel the board effectively allocates the resources, budgeting, staffing, equipment needed to
I
serve
agree
the
with that
public
statement.
while maintaining fiscal prudency?
Change advocate to allocate, and the last part, maintain fiscal prudency.
Yeah. Let's see.
I was just gonna say if it would be helpful to do any wordsmithing on any of the questions, I'd be happy to weigh in.
Appreciate it.
Number 4 is about transparency. Original question states, is the board's decision-making process transparent and communicated effectively to all levels of the organization? That's, again, not really our purview.
Are you talking about just the second part, communicate effectively?
Yeah, so is the board's decision-making process transparent within open sessions of the board meetings? Or something to that effect?
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, that's more specific.
Yeah, we're not in charge of effectively communicating it to everybody. Now, I guess we're in charge of effectively communicating it to the public as we're discussing it, but that's not part of the organization.
Number 5, I thought number 5 was fine. Anyone else have a comment on that?
No, that's fine.
It state, I'll just read it for the public. Do the actions of the board and individual members reflect positively on the organization and its employees in the community? Number 6 is visibility. This was another tough one. So, the question states, does the board and its individual members maintain an appropriate and visible presence that shows they understand our day-to-day operations? So, I think that again is very subjective. The question relies on how involved you want the board members to be. When you look forward into the other questions like number 8 and number 10, which talk about valuing the professional expertise of the staff, as well as not micromanaging daily operational tasks. Again, how involved do you want the board to be?
How about this for 6? Does the board demonstrate an appropriate understanding of organizational operations while respecting staff's operational role?
I think that's great.
So I've got, and I apologize if you don't mind.
I'll email to you.
Perfect, thank you.
right now.
Number 7, ethics and integrity. I thought that was good. It reads, do you trust the board to act in the best interest of the public and the organization, regardless of political pressure? I don't know if you want to use the word pressure. Political something or other.
Influence?
Yeah, there you go.
There you
That might
go.
be better. Number 8, culture and support. It reads, does the board demonstrate that they value the professional expertise and well-being of the staff? Now, that by itself, I thought it was fine, until it got convoluted with number 6.
Do you think after that change for number 6, that one is good standalone?
I think so. What do you guys think?
Can you read it? Did you email it?
6, for 6, does the board demonstrate an appropriate understanding of organizational operations while respecting staff's operational role?
I like it.
I just sent it.
Thank you.
Number 9 is about accountability. I just put a note that it's a fairly poor way to survey accountability. So when challenges arise, does the board take responsibility for high-level governance decisions rather than shifting blame? That's a pretty shady question right there.
Can I ask why?
Well, it just leads someone into
Yeah, I agree.
that thought process.
As in,
It-
go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna ask, as in, somebody, when challenges arise, does the board take responsibility for high-level governance decisions rather than shifting blame? Concern of it is that it begs the question that somebody is expecting that, or, I don't think I understand.
No, it gives, put it in simpler terms. Does the board member say, hey, look over here, don't look here? You see what I'm saying? Deflecting.
Yeah, and I think,
So,
is the concern the question as
is that what you're
phrased?
getting at, Brian?
So in terms of accountability as a whole, I think the question itself has to do with someone's character, not accountability. So it's an attack, it's a implied attack on someone's character, is what that question is, just to be blunt. So how do you want to address or survey for accountability to, rather than using that question?
Is there a,
I'm trying to imagine a scenario that we can even do that.
I think there's one where people tend to think that we're shifting the blame for the rows onto the county, even though we are still have some responsibility in how our money gets spent. I was gonna bring this up later, but I think that would be a good one as an example, because all we do is blame the county for the roads not being done now, instead of saying, we're gonna do what we can to make this stuff right.
Does
that make sense?
Yeah, I can totally understand that.
yeah, I think that makes sense, because I think if I go back to the old IGA and the situation there, question is, when challenge arises, the board take responsibility for high-level governance decisions rather than shifting blame. I think a previous, and I'm not commenting on this board or any former board members, but if members of the board or the board as a total said, it's the county's fault despite this is a bad IGA, this is why we're here, and it's all the county's fault, that's shifting the blame to them, when this body is part of that IGA and has options to exercise on how they might wanna negotiate that, or say, hey, we recognize the previous board that brought us here, we're taking responsibility of this IGA is not serving the district, and therefore we are responsible for whatever leads us to resolve it in a positive way.
Right.
That's an example in my head for that question. I don't,
But that pertains to, I guess it pertains to accountability outside. So we're moving away from internal questions designed to be answered by employees then, because that scenario affects the taxpayers.
Taxpayers, yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
It's more to the taxpayers' benefit how we respond to that.
I think that.
How does that impact the employee? That's what I'm getting, how does that necessarily reflect on the employee seeing that we shift blame in their arena? And maybe that question wasn't designed to be just for the employees.
I think there is still potentially a fair way for the employee to evaluate that, even that scenario in the accountability, because obviously they're impacted by it. Any decision made on that has an impact on how our services are provided and those who provide the service within the district of it, the Public Works Department, for instance. But even an example that's not that, let's say there's something that comes up that expects, let's say, I hope this doesn't go down a rabbit hole, but the whole situation with the pool and finding it in a scenario that, hey, we have to evaluate it, close it, we have to potentially evaluate whether we can repair it within this current service as far as what expected to repair it. and identifying whether that's a board decision, and does the board feel like having given that information during that process, they're evaluating it, making a decision. But there could be blame for the potential of employees being involved with that scenario that caused it to get worse, caused the pool itself to not be maintained, and identifying it in those areas that might come into it's not about accepting responsibility for our decision-making process, knowing what we have now. It's a concern of trying to cast it as something that doesn't involve how that decision's made now.
So as I understand that scenario, when the swim pool was closed, I asked for a lot of information. There's two things here. There's reactive and there's proactive. Reactive is, my car didn't start today. So then you replace the battery. Oh, wait a minute, it's not the battery. It ran dead 24 hours later. Must be the alternator. That's reactive. You just replace parts. Proactive is, if you see consistency in the same problem developing and it's getting worse, we need to get an expert in there to figure out why is this happening and what's the root cause of it. Okay, and that's the problem we had with the swim pool since 2023. Can't be reactive all the time, you gotta be proactive in preventive maintenance.
Yeah, so a good example of that, and I'm talking about multiple boards during it, is that if the board identified and got feedback, hey, we are having issues with the pool, or that there isn't funding for it, and the board made decision, again, not this board made decisions of, hey, we want to prioritize X project, or we wanted to understand that balancing the whole roads budget means we don't have enough funding for Parks and Rec. That's board, and that board could be called up and said,
No,
like, hey, why'd you make that decision?
That was a perfect scenario, and
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I understand exactly about that.
And that board could say, and I know they're not here, but they could say, yep, it's on us. We recognize we had a public safety issue with roads. We understand we had a pool with failing infrastructure or potential long-term investment that was needed for capital that we just couldn't afford. And we take ownership of, we had to prioritize public safety at that time and couldn't dedicate funding to do that. That's that ownership that does have an impact, obviously, to the taxpayers and the folks who are served by the pool and the roads, but at the same time, the employees and how they receive it.
It also brings it back to us too, because even though we can say, hey, yes, this is something that had been ongoing, and we took over the responsibility of it, just like a commander, when you take over your company, you have to fix the issues. So instead of saying, well, that was the last board, what do I need to do with it? No, I gotta take that and run with it and say, hey, we gotta make this better, we gotta be proactive, we gotta do these things that wasn't happening before.
Yeah, I think the most common probably shift of blame, and this is, again, no criticism for specific people or boards, but it's most common to say, hey, it was the last guy or last gal who was responsible for this, or last guys and gals in that case, rather than say, hey, it's our problem now, we need to address it.
Right.
So how do you
phrase that question?
I've been scouring through that guidance document again, just trying to see if it's listed in there somewhere or worded in some fashion.
I could borrow from Director Robertson saying we could adjust it for the accountability of being proactive even. Does the board, when presented or identified, does the board take responsibility for making proactive, high-level governance decisions rather than relying on past or introducing
Another
reactive?
example was back in December, I snapped your head off, but I apologize publicly.
Yeah.
That was
appreciated.
reactive.
Fair.
You see what I'm saying?
We all have moments. I do appreciate it. As far as I have had reactive moments myself, so I apologize.
So, but, yeah, I can see where he wants clarity on that, and we can't just keep brushing our responsibility off on something that happened before us, and something that we assumed when we came on board here, we gotta own it.
Let's see, when challenge arises, the board take responsibility for past governing actions, and move forward in a positive manner. I don't know. I see what you're trying to, I see what you're trying to get at, it's easy to sit back and blame the other guy. And sometimes there's obviously consequences to actions. And when a board or any individual makes a bad decision or a bad action, there's consequences. So you can't blame somebody else for that. But by the same token, it was an action that they committed.
maybe frame it within your infinite game
That's fair, I
thought
like that.
process.
Can I give you what I
Or handle
came
it
up with
greater.
so far? Hamlet's Grace, not bad. Does the board take accountability and ownership for supporting or initiating proactive measures to improve the organization? And I could probably add, in long-term sustainability, such as the infinite game.
Okay.
And we'll also have another, like, they'll
Okay.
wordsmith, but that probably captures at least a little bit of
I
it.
appreciate
I think
that.
this is, blame is a pretty,
Well, it's like asking, it'd be like asking a panel of people, do you like this beverage more because this other one tastes like garbage? That's how that question was framed.
I don't know if I agree, but I can understand where you're coming from. Because I understand where the character aspect of it,
Yeah.
like, to answer that negatively means that it's
Yeah.
probably poor character. Where I think the question is identifying accountability isn't a level of character, it's just a level of ownership, and I think that we can rephrase that.
Appreciate it.
Mhm.
Last question, governance focus. Does the board focus on high-level strategy and policy rather than micromanaging daily operational tasks? So we touched on a little of that in number 9. I would say probably a good way to look at this question is, do we approach our meetings with the objective of getting things done in some way or form? Governance focus, or are we just sitting here bickering about minor details or what have you? Are we really looking to move the district forward in the best possible light?
Can I offer alternative perspective?
Sure,
I think
go
that's a
for
good
it.
one.
It's a good perspective.
And it might be the one that absorbs this, because the only other alternative perspective I would share is that it might be a question of where your focus is. To the point of getting things done, but also what level. To your
Yeah.
point, getting absorbed by the details, operational, how, and I don't think this has happened, but like, how much, how many times we inspect the pool, or how many times we do X, Y, Z, versus we have an operational pool that's serving X community and provides all the services we want for that pool to be able to do within the budget we have approved. The level of the focus.
How about instead of high level, broad level strategy rather than micromanaging? The big picture as opposed to the little things.
We do dive into little things quite often, but a lot of it's pertaining to our purview, like budget and so forth.
Yeah, to me, when he uses the word micromanagement, or when I see micromanagement, that's the board getting involved in the day-to-day operations that have been set aside for Christian. That would be my idea of micromanagement, diving into the details of proposed resolution.
Yeah.
To me, it's not micromanaging, it's diligence.
We need to make sure we.
Detailed discussion.
But I agree with micromanaging this, we're not getting into his business, we're not necessary. We're getting into their business and it's not necessary.
Are we either married or opposed to the idea of having micromanagement in the question itself? I'm almost done rephrasing, but that's
I'm indifferent.
so far I got, does the board focus on accomplishing and supporting broad level strategy that demonstrates furthering the long-term goals of the district rather than becoming absorbed by the details or micromanagement of daily operations?
Yeah.
Okay. And then I think the only one, if you don't mind, if I get yours, the question number 1, perfect. Thank you. And I think I got this to be able to revise and repropose it. I'll send it probably out, just ahead of time, just to be sure. So that way, if there's any additional feedback that comes up, we can capture it, but otherwise I'll get that staged for the next meeting for an action item to approve before we send out.
Yeah, appreciate it.
And I would say, I would just suggest maybe, if you guys have an opportunity or some free time, schedule it with Christian and talk about it with him. Good,
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Always happy to talk, if you haven't heard me.
You talking about with your one-on-one or your
Yeah.
two-on-ones?
Yeah, so
One-on-one.
first Friday right now, every month, there's scheduled spaces if
We
you
were
ever want to stop
discussing
by.
that.
I think I still need to schedule ours.
Friday,
Yep,
right?
Friday.
If you can, yes.
I don't know, it seems like I've got a committee every Friday, it seems like lately.
Oh, I do too. Yeah, Friday's the 29th, isn't it?
26th.
We have a pool
No, 30th This Friday.
Thursday.
Oh,
pool
Thursday.
meeting.
Thursday's
Cool.
29th, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I just looked that up, cause I noticed that was not in the, announcements. And I was gonna ask that we, as far as committee report, if we can get Carol to present that at the next board meeting?
So talk about indoor pool committee.
Yeah.
So our practice, give this back.
Thank you.
Is that we do, if there's ever a committee meeting, we add it to committee reports, and board members do report out on their committee reports. So
Okay.
unless there's a need to, I would hope that share tonight.
I think the only thing that I would ask for is, the new updated design as of us going with, Exhibit A versus Exhibit B, and we went with B. And then made some changes on it, so that way we have, a PDF picture we can put up there while we're giving the committee report.
We can do that. I mean, either one of us can do that, right? You
Yes,
can
absolutely.
put that up
And if
there.
we need to facilitate anything, it's not to oppose the idea of like, us presenting or a staff member coming forward and presenting. The idea is that the board appointed, board members as far as that committee, so
No, that's
seeing
good.
that report. Yeah, happy to facilitate.
But any pictures you want, that they're happy to put up there.
Yeah, I just wanna present it, so that way the public's got our vision.
Understood,
Mhm.
yeah. That's fair.
Is that it?
That's it.
On that?
Thank you very
Okay.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So the next one is strategic discussion related to an Economic Development Policy Committee presented by Mr. Marcos Reyes, our Economic Support Specialist, and Matt Lund, the Director of Business Administration.
Good evening, President Vickers, members of the board, Matt Lund, Director of Business Administration. I'm gonna be listening.
President Vickers, esteemed board members, Marcos Reyes, Economic Support Specialist. Right now, staff, we're actively reviewing economic development policies, economic incentive policies, and economic strategies for the district. Given that sales, leases, or other district properties must be approved by official board action, staff are requesting a temporary committee to express the purpose of evaluating existing and new policies. The Economic Development and Economic Management staff met in early 2026 regarding the needs of the departments and how to best proceed with compiling board guidance into guiding and actionable documentation. Staff are additionally requesting that at least one board member be identified as an economic liaison who may be decided by the board. This liaison would be available to the Economic Development Division for quick one-off questions or opinions that do not require full board action and which would not be confused for full board direction. The additional touch point between regular meetings will enhance economic development's ability to react more nimbly to the new and developing opportunities. Any questions?
I choose Chris.
I mean, I would love to do it, and I will do it if the board pleases. I'd wanna know, I don't know is there an example of, I just don't wanna get in a position where I'm making decisions without, and you alluded to that. Can I get more substance behind that, maybe?
Absolutely,
make
that's an
sense?
excellent question. So what are the things that we would be looking at is, let's just say we want to change the zoning to best impact commercial value of the property. We would get your opinion based on the fact that you are a real estate expert, in my opinion. If we wanted to reevaluate the prices of lots, because they have not been addressed since COVID. So to get a market value, I don't have access to MLS, I don't have access to a lot of data that is pertinent. So in that case, that would be something that we would get guidance from you, we would put together a proposal, then we would bring that proposal to the full board.
I think everything that I would do in that role, I would just want a write-up of, okay, this is what I did on my own, and then we can
Absolutely, so
let the board know what I did on my own.
we could definitely do that. We can go ahead and do a synopsis or a quick action report. I.e., I met with Director Pasternak, we discussed various items, Director Pasternak led various reports, and then we could have that go through the chain and then email to the board so that when we actually presented it to the board, they would understand what your guidance was, and it was strictly just guidance, and they would be able to read everything step by step of what we did.
The board makes the ultimate decision.
I know you would be very mindful, but obviously being a real estate professional who works in the community, you'll want to be watching carefully for conflicts of interest
Right,
in your business, but I know you do that anyhow.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys are good with it, I'd love to do it.
Yeah, I would say that's fine, especially since you can't act on any decision based just on your information. It has to come to a vote, so I think you're protected from conflict of interest, I would think.
That's what I was concerned about previously, so.
And just a couple clarifying things, to make sure understanding as far as translated to action. So this is first and foremost a policy committee review. So the idea is the committee will develop policy, which that part of it will be general. The idea is not to create anything that would be a specific thing that goes into a policy. Effectively, this board would ultimately approve for any specific conditions. It's creating the playbook that we play by. When it comes to liaison and identifying that person can then help in those things that either aren't covered by policy or are unique, that's where the board would be appointing potentially a liaison to help answer questions in that. And then if there was something that, hey, you're involved with or there's conflict of interest, as long as the board made it clear that was the expectation that in those cases, recuse yourself, just identify it, let it move forward without that, then that probably cover and be appropriate.
And the language of however we might want to draft it, what this liaison representation might be, can be captured inside of the policy itself.
Good catch.
What other stakeholders do you plan on having on this committee?
I would like to have President Vickers solely for the reasoning of that when we go to deal with certain things, he does have a knowledge of the Declaration of Reservations, so we would be able to bounce questions off of him. Some of the issues that we have is sometimes mingling the UDC and the Declaration. So that would be something that we could brainstorm with when working with him when I was running the meetings for the COA. We learned to have a really good relationship and a really good way that we could communicate. So things like that. Just to
Would you have somebody from the UDC as
we
part
have
of
the
the committee?
UDC. If I had a question on that aspect of it, I could generally reach out to the county, to planning and development. I do have a working relationship with most everyone there, so that's something I could easily reach out to. But the UDC is actually written as pretty easy to understand. There's not much gray area there. Where we do have some issues is sometimes is bridging the two, and just how to merge them easily and potentially like not just always do a variance. You know, there may be something that we could do and things like that. To springboard off of Christian, like when we're developing SOG, Standard Operating Guidelines, there may be something and steps to do with getting an offer. You know, in other words, where if you receive an offer X, Y, and Z, that we would want to make sure that would be legal in the real estate world. And then we could document stuff like that to present to the board. So those are some of the things, like basically just the guidelines and stuff.
So any outside entities from the chamber or businesses, Rotary? I mean, who else is going to be on this committee to help
For
decide?
drafting our internal policy, I don't know why we would be going outside. We could bring in additional district staff that are stakeholders. But this is explicitly, because we did have a discussion about, is this an economic development committee? Which we didn't think would have a very long lifespan, because ultimately we're getting a sense of the board's direction and guidance. We already have learned some of these things, how much we want to see in earnest money, what sort of documentation we want to use as standard. This is just putting it all down. And so we pivoted our internal conversation from an economic development committee to an economic development policy committee.
Okay, fair enough.
Just about, because
So at some
hopefully to
point,
avoid
though,
us going back and forth 10 times, because
let's say the Economic Policy Development Committee creates the policies. At some point, you're going to need feedback, just like the folks that wrote the UDC. You're going to need some feedback from business owners, from constituents, people that these policies affect.
I would not necessarily take that as gospel, but it could be that this board wants us to get that feedback. We're responsive to the individual entities that we're working with, and this would be, I would assume, a document that we would, the trouble is, this doesn't exist, and we need it to exist, and we need to make it. So this is sort of an invitation to build it together. And then my thought is, anytime we seat a new board, we say, by the way, here it is. Any thoughts? Are you good to continue with that? Do you want to revise things? As we have experiences with businesses, individuals, as markets shift, then we can revisit the policy. But this is establishing a new one without having anything to go on, so.
Okay.
But maybe,
I'd
if I
just
can
be
ask,
cautious. I think
does that address the question?
it does. I think it would behoove us to get some sort of outside influence on those policies. Make sure that it's addressing the right items and it's not inhibiting economic development
Sure.
because we're too narrow-minded and narrow-focused on our own district operations. So at some point, I think you're gonna need to get feedback, whether
I
they're on
think
the committee or after the fact.
Yes, I think that in the normal course of business, we should be exposing ourselves, and we've just met with, for example, the Pueblo Development Fund, yeah. It's PDF, not the file type.
Right.
And so in the course of regular business, we should continue to be exposing ourselves to those entities and developing partnerships. I think that'll come in the natural course of the direction of our department.
Okay.
If it's not, let us know. You know,
And I'm happy to be on that if the board so desires. You guys all right with that?
What days and
Sorry.
times do you have that committee meeting?
Oh, this is something,
depends who's on it.
yeah, depends who's on it. This is something that if we needed, we would reach out. It's basically brand new. So we'll call President Vickers or whoever else is on it, Director Pasternak, and we will be like, what's a good time for you this time? And then we can get that scheduled. So there's no hard set time or nothing like that.
So you're developing that?
This is a complete, yes, sir. This is from the ground up.
You're not gonna glean off of something that's already out there?
There's nothing as far as the SOG's policies out there. There's been none created. We haven't been able to find anything like that. So this is gonna be completely new. Also, we're gonna be revamping the economic incentives. So, you know, these are things that we would wanna, just to pitch to get a general idea of if it would be or
Well,
no
ince-
or yes.
Incentives, you can probably glean a lot from Pedco.
I did meet with a gentleman
Pueblo
from
has an
Petco.
economic development
I
department.
did meet with him on Friday, last Friday, yes. So I did meet with him. We are, like I said, we are establishing these contacts. We are establishing these relationships with different entities. So it's not like we're just being closed-minded and focused just within our own department. There are some unique things that we do have to bridge.
Yeah,
So-
yeah, metro districts are tough, yeah, I
Yeah.
understand, yeah.
But aside from that, like I said, this is where we start.
Mhm.
We start with the board, you know, so we want to gather some quick input, and we want to put together something to bring to the board as a whole to get your entire direction or your entire approval. But this is just something that we could help springboard off, and we're not sitting here going, they might like it, so.
This is, you're talking about policies too, not focused to economic development, but trying to integrate COA, Declaration of Reservations, into the UDC, right? You're trying to make those two things work together a little better?
If we can in this document, great. That seems like a high bar, or what could just be a reference document. Because ultimately, we found through a lot of prodding that we can't do away with the DOR.
No.
And so we have to make them work. Ultimately, I think the discussions we've had internally is what we need to compile is a helpful resource document to people coming into Pueblo West, so they can say, this has this metric, this has this metric, we have to go with the one that's more restrictive of the two, therefore it's this one, and create a guideline for that.
But the declarations of reservations don't deal with the zoning.
No, but what, okay, so to give you
It's
the
always deferred back to the county.
True,
You wanna
but to give you an example, we're trying to create something that if neither one of us are here, we retire, we remove, whatever, that we can leave something that the next people in our positions don't have to recreate. So to go to R1, that is no longer an R1. That's a SR2. So the SR2 allows for a duplex, whereas an R1 does not. So an SOG, one of the things that we would have is first realize what they want to do with that property. And then you would have to research, is there going to be a conflict between our declaration of reservations and the UDC? If there is, how would that be addressed? These are things that the next person that would come in would be like, oh, this gentleman wants to buy 15 R1 lots and put duplexes on them. Well, unfortunately, they're gonna have to do a variance on that, or something of the similar. So where we have the institutional knowledge of doing this for a few years, we wanna create something to leave for any future, individual in this position.
So are you looking to just expand on the UDC and all that work they did? I mean, it took
No,
them
no,
like 2
no,
years.
no, no. So basically, I'm not looking to expand on anything with the UDC. So basically, we had an issue where we had a gentleman that wanted to buy some R1s and put duplexes on them. So of course, we went through it and we had to do a variance and everything else like that. That is institutional knowledge that I have. I just knew how to walk over and discuss with community development what's going on. The future person in this position may not have that institutional knowledge, may not understand how the Declaration of Reservations truly works. So by giving an SOG, we can outline the fact that what does this gentleman want to buy this property for, or whoever wants to buy this property for? They want to do X. How does X relate to the UDC and our Declaration of Reservations? Are they compatible? Whereas a CC and a B4 may be compatible on R1 and SR2 or not. So
Just to clarify, some of those items are not necessarily policy-worthy items, because that's just internal documentation.
Right.
And we can put that together on our own.
Yeah.
So,
but these are just some of the things that we want to try to do, like with our SRGs and stuff like that, so that
Would
it's real crystal clear. And the board has made it clear that you guys would like to provide input with things. So this is an opportunity for us to always have the board provide input.
I appreciate the work. I'm just trying to understand a little better.
Oh, we welcome your
So-
questions, sir.
From what I remember from all the UDC discussions, it's they have basically it all outlined. So if it's a SR2
Right.
or whatever, it'll tell you exactly what that plot of land is allocated for, what you could do on
Correct.
that land, what you need to do in order to do this on that land.
Correct.
So you're trying to take that and also make sure that it balances with.
Our declarations of reservations,
Yeah.
with the example of an R1 only allows a single family home, whereas a duplex is a multifamily or a two-family home.
this actually came to us from the county,
Mhm.
because the county was saying, yeah, you can go and do this. And then the developer would come to us, and we'd have to say, well, actually, no.
Hmm.
So the county has also been in contact with us about like, hey, we've got these two documents that are, fizzling at the
conflict.
edges here and there.
Okay.
But that's just a reference tool we can build out, it's just gonna be tedious.
Is there a declaration of reservations here? Can you read what it says at the top of every page on that?
I'll pull it up, and to answer your question, or your statement earlier, the Declaration of Reservations isn't a zoning document in and of itself. However, what the challenge we found is that it references two things. One, which I think you're gonna pull out, is that it refers to the Pueblo County zoning resolution, and that is what trumps. The challenge with the Declaration of Reservation is it also uses the legacy R1, R2, all those in its documentation with the specifications, which causes that conflict that
Right.
they're describing. That's where, in this conversation, there's kind of two elements we're talking about. One, the Declaration of Reservations challenges with the Unified Development Code, the UDC, which Matt and that team and everybody has been trying to work with the county to try and, whether the helpful resource document for people to just come in and understand what's happening. That's one element of it, and whether it can fit into the economic development policy or not, it's still something that's ongoing, and progress is trying to be made to be able to make that easier for people coming in. Second part, and the focus of this conversation, the Economic Development Policy Committee,
Yeah.
is to help develop what I think have been conversations and has been direction from here to say that this is gonna be the policy that we subscribe to in the most structural way possible, so that way there is a clear expectation for this team when they're going and engaging to know kind of what to expect, what to share with other people, and what they should expect for it. If there are incentives in that policy that are described as part of an economic incentive plan or sub-policy, to be able to develop those as well, and then carry into potential for liaisons for those, I think, can't think of the right word, but those independent, unique situations that may come up. The only additional history, I can't do multitasking, so working on still getting the Declaration of Reservations.
There's a book back there.
That's fair.
There used to be.
I always try to, it's right here, I just can't click the button at the same time I'm talking. Just a little bit of context is that historically, before I don't know exactly if it started with Darren Tangeman as district manager or Nina Vetter, but there used to be an economic development committee might have been named something different, where board members, sometimes potentially partners, would stand in and evaluate different things for the district before it got there. But there came concerns with that, potential conflicts of interest and potential with people who could get involved with that. And then recognizing that there should be a staff function dedicated to helping make sure that we can run that to ground rather than across multiple departments, water, the COA at the time, streets and roads. That's where some of the position got birthed, and having an economic development specialist or economic support specialist to help carry that out. We're just now experiencing probably a high level of economic interest within the district that has dedicated, especially with a new board, what that policy should look like. So this committee can help function as a way to develop a policy that's agreeable and then carry it forward, as Marco said, for something that can exist beyond this board, beyond their position, so that way it's consistent across the district. Obviously, it can be revised. So that's clarify everything, and yeah, I thought that was gonna be a much better segue. I thought it was right there.
So when the district was formed, they have to get permission from the county. At the time, the Title 17 of the county code is what governed what was put into the declarations of reservations as far as R1, A1, A3, those definitions. So those definitions have changed at the county level. So I guess my question would be, is it possible to change those definitions without changing the declarations of reservations, especially in conjunction with what it says at the top of the page, every one of those pages about
Keeps
the
alluding to it. I want to see it now.
Read that.
So at the beginning of,
Thank you,
there's
Don.
two things. It says, in the said conditions are as follows, it's not top of every page, it talks about the Pueblo County zoning resolution the first time. It says that all of the lots within this subdivision shall be designated as, in this case, R1 single-family residential lots as defined in the Pueblo County zoning resolution, and shall be improved, used, and occupied in accordance with the provisions set forth under R1 single-family residential lots of this declaration. And then the one that it says in generally top of every page where it starts a new section talking about a new zoning, R1, R4, whatever it might be. Notwithstanding other uses permitted under the Pueblo County zoning resolution under this zone, upon issuance of a zoning permit by the county zoning administrator, the following uses and regulations shall apply unless otherwise provided in these reservations. And when it says notwithstanding, it means the other document does not have that standing to override this, if this is the more stringent of the two. So as we have a declaration of reservation dictating these uses permitted or these setbacks or something to that effect, if they're more stringent, they still apply. And this is where I'll borrow from Carl, if he remembers from our conversation. The challenge, because we did meet with the county attorney and our folks to try and deconflict this, that was the conclusion, is that while obviously the county, the UDC, is the zoning and the proper zoning techniques or proper zoning classifications, this document specifies things that are more stringent and still there, and they still dictate R4s and they still dictate this, and those have not been able to be deconflicted. That's where we're running into challenges.
Deconflicted, Carl.
Yeah, I don't know that I've ever actually used that word.
He might be different.
I like it.
Okay.
I like it.
Well, what do you guys wanna do? Are you okay with Chris and I?
I think it's good.
Yeah.
I think we're about 6 acronyms into y'all's conversation. UDC to me in the law enforcement and correction means Unit Disciplinary Council. So
I did say that one.
SOG in the military's totally different. Special Operations Group. You see where I'm going?
This, so the
So-
UDC is.
When we're having this conversation again, let's please explain it to the public.
We shall, sir. That mentally taken.
And you know, an ASAP,
Say again?
the acronym ASAP is as
Yes.
slow as possible.
Yes.
That was sarcasm.
Okay, so, are we good?
I'm good on the
All right.
acronyms.
Okay, we'll find a time.
Sounds good.
And just
I
to
guess-
answer your questions, Director Roberts, is Unified Development Code is the UDC.
So, I guess, sorry, we dove into zoning heavily,
Sorry.
but economic development is much more than just zoning. So, what are your other thoughts? What are you trying to accomplish?
To the degree that we want to discuss that tonight or as part of the policy committee, things that we're looking to discuss are strategies. And I was able to share some of this with Director Pasternak in a visit he had to my office. areas that we've looked at, and we've tried to understand what's the value of these parcels, do they have value, how does this board feel about the idea of maybe we've got some neighboring parcels, why don't we just vacate the lot lines, reduce them to one parcel instead of 5 to spare us some water overhead, things like that where, yeah, we've got ideas, you know, until the sun sets, but it's just finessing out sort of the general direction of, it's, in a way, it's kind of understanding the mission statement for this department, because ultimately it's not about what we think is best. We've tried that. And sometimes it works out great. But ultimately it's about bringing members of the board and then representation back to the board about what those discussions look like so that we make sure we're on the same page.
And my interpretation was that you wanted to have a developed, not only policy, but guidelines in case someone died or they retired. That way they could pick up that document and say, okay, this is our past practice, this is our policies, this is the direction we need to go.
We're not reinventing the wheel, we're just writing it down. If that, I mean, ultimately.
Are there gonna be any funds put forth towards economic development for Pueblo West? Is that?
Are we talking about us putting our own funds or any funds dedicated to us, all the above?
Yeah, beautification of Pueblo West, et cetera, et cetera.
I think as far as high-level strategy and conversation about economic development policy, it could cover things that involve that. At this time, I don't think that there's any. I'll share, when we went through our last strategic plan, identified what the old one said versus the current one that's in play right now. Economic development did come up as a conversation, because previous strategic plans identified we wanted to have more of a hand in it. This one identified that it may not be our role or responsibility. We oftentimes are more reactive, understanding the state of affairs at the time, and our role as a metropolitan district. So we kind of stayed hands-off other than a specific priority, which was that diversification of revenue streams within our current strategic plan priorities, which these folks are very much involved with and play a role in being able to develop that. This is almost a part of that, and it might launch a question of should we become more involved or how that will progress in the future.
We've actually had that discussion, I remember, because it's not part of the service plan.
No, so
I think you brought that up.
It's not, it used to be prohibited. I think the legislature changed it. There used to be a dollar amount of commercial value property that had to be met before you could even engage in economic development, but they may have done away with that.
Gotcha. I know we had a conversation about the statute, the role of metropolitan or special district, when it comes to economic development, what tools they have, what restrictions they might have. I didn't find a run to ground necessarily if there was anything that has changed about it, like history. I couldn't find anything currently. So the question is there any funds coming to us is a fair question. I think in the sense of Pueblo West is being identified as probably the premier spot where development can probably occur next. It has, while still limitations, probably the least amount compared to neighbors. And it is a place and focus of the county commissioners now to see that. And I'll share when they were talking about the building division, the new Pueblo County Building Division, Pueblo Regional Building Division, which I forget the name, but has adjusted its name as they've adopted a new service plan or service providing provision. Even the folks who were there in that Pueblo County Technical Advisory Committee identified Pueblo West is the premier spot, is the place where we're going to see the most economic probably growth coming forward. So it has necessitated an evaluation of what policies we have. As far as funding, I'm not aware, and there's nothing dedicated other than the positions and the time involved with that this time.
And if I can, Director Axworthy, I'll give you one more good example of the sort of thing we're looking for. I'll give you some extremes. I've seen, I think you guys are my 4th board iteration I've seen from usually behind the IT computer.
Right.
But I've heard over the years, the district shouldn't own any land, sell it all.
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard, we should maximize the value of our land. Those are extreme opposites. And without deciding where we land on that, where we are today, there's a whole lot of decisions that we can make without that context that do or don't make any sense. So it's the scope of what we are really doing that is that larger discussion as well.
That's a big issue.
Because if you want me to sell everything, there's an easy way to do that. You just cut the prices all day long and then it's gone. And then we find out something new to do, support the community, whatever.
Well, you want to develop with a mission in mind. What do you want to attract? What do you?
Yes, exactly.
Do we want
And
slum industrial or do we want high-tech business?
Right, and again, because each one of those deals is gonna come to you anyway. It makes sense to get on the same page
Right.
about what that vision is. I think that's a good way to put it.
I appreciate you bringing that up. To your point, the only current autonomy or authority that this board has over what comes to Pueblo West and what's seen in Pueblo West is the land that it owns and how it can arrange dealings with that. So,
Right.
for instance, that one of just sell it, get rid of it, that's our incentive, just we don't want it on the books, does not, I don't have a interest as a board potentially in seeing that. One that wants to maximize the value begs the question is, what is the maximum value? Is it what shows up there? Is it the amount of sales tax revenue or potential property tax revenue? Such a whole lot of questions that could be very important. So this board is probably taking the first step in waging these are the things that we see as far as our vision.
And I think we're at a time now, supply and demand is, these things they're coming together. And Pueblo West is gonna be at a good spot.
Okay, thank you.
And I just wanna say for public appearances, we are not selling all of it off at all. Cause somebody will take that statement
And it's gospel.
and gaslight it. Thank you.
All right, that leads us into, it's a good segue to the next topic.
Oh, there.
Oops.
Thanks, Jen.
So, next one is the Desert Hot Golf Course Open Conversation, gentlemen, and I wanna open this up with some things that I compiled so, in the past few months, information has been disseminated about supposed facts surrounding the Desert Hot Golf Course. Tonight, along with this discussion of the golf course, I would like to bring the facts before the public. As most people know, my foremost concern is properly spending tax dollars, since that money is not voluntarily given but extracted from the taxpayer, and with that, accountability. I've always been reluctant to subsidize the golf course and have stated so publicly. I've been leery of the base charge for water to the golf course, but realize we are bound by the golf course IGA as to how that rate is fixed. It was myself that led the investigation into excessive water usage by the golf course that led to a more in-depth study of the leaky system, which found there is approximately 60 million gallons of water leaking out of the system yearly. That equates to over 200 homes worth of water. With that being said, we can use all the water that we can get, so it is in the best interest of Pueblo West to get the irrigation system replaced. The golf course, as of the last few years, is operating in the black by a few $100,000 with the retirement of the bond. I would also like to add that bond was paid off in 2024. The only money that the district has ever contributed to the Desert Hawk is the repayment of the bond, which was $304,000 a year for 25 years. That was paid off in December. We cannot find, and we've searched, we can't find any other funds that have been sent to the Desert Hawk Golf Course Enterprise. Pueblo West has not contributed any other money other than the debt service. They're not contributing money now. And in the past, we can't find anywhere we've done it other than the debt. So the golf course, as the last few years, is operating in the black by a few $100,000 with the retirement of the bonds. That's a lot of money, but given the current state of affairs, it is positive. The goal, I believe, is to find ways to enhance its profitability without Pueblo West or the county supplementing its expenses. This is what I believe the current Metro Board is endeavoring to accomplish. There are a few voices that have seemed to think that doing away with the golf course is the way to go. If it wasn't being profitable and we were infusing money into it, I might be inclined to agree. But let's look at the alternatives. If we were to close the golf course park, it still needs upkeep and watering, and the district would have to bear that cost alone. If it's sold and someone tried to develop it, that may never happen, and in the meantime, those that purchased land and built houses many years ago would most likely suffer property devaluation. It's easy for someone who doesn't have a dog in the hunt to make decisions for others or come up with solutions that don't affect them. The golf course was part of McCulloch's plan. He sold lots on it all throughout the district, and the golf course is its center point. The decision to keep the golf course was made more than 25 years ago by a different board. We were handed this challenge by others, but I am hopeful we can overcome this challenge. We just talked about that. The golf course seems to be on the verge of profitability. We are shifting the burden to the golf course enterprise, making it responsible for the irrigation system and the payments for the cost of it. I also made the suggestion that the golf course charge a $2 to $3 a day charge on every round of golf that would go directly for capital improvements, such as the irrigation system. The truth is, we are trying to make it viable for the golf course to continue. I'm optimistic that we can achieve this, but having real reliable information is key. I'm always open to conversations. All of our meetings are public. Nothing is happening behind closed doors, and I welcome different ideas and solutions. Working together is ideal. It's been compiled that there's been several things that have come up, over conversations on Facebook and other places. One of them was that we were taking action behind closed doors. There's no action that's being taken behind closed doors individual board members regarding Desert Hawk. All those meetings are public. Nobody can do anything as a single individual. There's always more, it takes more than four or more people on the Desert Hawk Enterprise Board to make a decision. The Metro Board or the county does not have sole decision-making power. There is no new IGA being developed. That has been out there. I believe the IGA was brought up a year ago, and that would require a public board discussion and public notice on a public agenda, which is what we would do normally. And I have stated publicly that I'm not, at this time, in favor of renegotiating the IGA. There's a lot of work that has to be done with what we have now before anybody can take a look at rewriting the IGA. I would always want to do what's the best interest for Pueblo West. The actual debt is publicly documented. Let's see here. I've got it here somewhere. All right, so we paid $6,078,478 in loan payments to the golf course over the 25 years. They owe us $1,279,828 in water. This is the audited figures, folks. This is what our auditors came out with. There's nothing hidden in any of these. There's another $457,000 in acquired land that we have options on. So we have invested in the golf course a little over $7 million. I think to walk away from that, it would be not a good idea for the taxpayers at this point, since it's really making some money at this point. I am not currently on the Desert Hawk Board as the treasurer or secretary. I've had the secretary of the Enterprise Board look. Those are positions that need to be voted on. I was never elected to that position, either of those positions, as far as I can find. So there's no possibility of me being on those positions. There's no conflict of interest recusals, because there is no conflict of interest on any board member's part. Nobody has access to money. There's no financial gain for anybody. I don't have a membership to the golf course. I don't golf. There's nothing I can make. So there's no conflict of interest. The Desert Hawk financial records are not being withheld. You can contact the county. They're mostly in charge of all that's going on there, because right now they are the owner of the golf course. So if you want that information, you need to go to the county. We will supply whatever we can, but there's a lot of information that we don't have. The water debt from Desert Hawk is still outstanding. We want to make sure that we do collect that back for the taxpayers of Pueblo West. We're not pumping tax dollars into the golf course. Like I said, we haven't contributed other than the loan payment. There's no bailout that exists. Pueblo West is not secretly trying to funnel $5 million to the county to bail out the golf course. We couldn't do that if we wanted to. None of us have access to the checkbook, and this is not something that can happen. We can't impose a sales tax to fund the golf course. That has to be done by the voters were ever to come up, the kitchen was just remodeled. The enterprise board decided to spend money to remodel the kitchen.
Out of their own enterprise funds?
Yeah, it's out of the enterprise fund. That's out of the money that the enterprise fund makes, or the enterprise makes. And once again, the golf course has been profitable. I think in 2024, it was $207,000 in the black. So we're trying to capitalize on that. We're trying to make it viable. We're trying to make the golf course remain certainly an asset for the people that enjoy golfing, the people that own property on the golf course. I understand that's a contentious issue, but if you had land on the golf course or a house on the golf course, would you be so eager to sell it and get out from under anything? So anyway, those are the truths. If you want to talk to me at any time, you're welcome to. I welcome that. I welcome an open, honest conversation. But I think we're on the right track with that. I hope we can keep it viable. Down the road, we don't know what happens. You know, that may be another board's decision, but right now, it's in a positive place, I think. So that
Yep.
opens that up.
And we're trying to keep it that way. That's the purpose for continuing with the manager scope of running the golf course versus bringing in a contract company to do so versus self-operating through either the Metro District or the county. But in those discussions, we felt that the manager piece is working. It's still profitable, and we don't need to be running a golf course. We have other things to do. The only thing, and I just mentioned it to Christian just earlier, the only thing I think we're missing as far as a piece of the puzzle is the fund balance report. So we know a fund balance report, so we know that it's become profitable. The golf course has become profitable just recently, last 5-6 years. Prior to that, it was losing money. So I'd like to see where we're at exactly, so that we can determine, do we start paying back each entity that's owed money, or does that money all go towards the irrigation system and so forth. So that's where I'm at with it.
It's a sticky, I mean, the IGA itself has a schedule of what should happen to funds when they're in excess, in order of how that they're paid out. The total amounts owed on the lease payments come first, so that's done. Next is cash expenditures as defined in Article 1, Section 1.7, which includes expenditures for golf course maintenance, management, equipment, operations, and improvements funded by the cash revenues as set forth in the approved annual plan and budget. Number 3 is funding any contingency fund or carryover line item for capital projects begun in any year but not completed. 4 is repayment of all loans made by the county and the district. And 5 is 50% of any revenues exceeding the amounts paid under this section shall be appropriated to a separate fund known as an endowment fund specifically designated for golf course improvements, recreation purposes, and other jointly approved purposes as agreed upon. And then 50% of revenues exceeding the amounts paid under the section 4.9, this is the last payment, subsections through D and above shall remain in the Desert Hawk Enterprise Fund for the golf course expenditures approved in an annual plan and budget.
Yep.
So there's ways to walk through this, and my goal is to before any changes are made to this, we need to adhere to this intergovernmental agreement the best that we can. And unfortunately, I think there's been some things that have been lax in the years prior, but this is what we're working towards. This is what these guys that sit on this are trying to do, is to make it viable for the people, not be a drain on the community, and keep that functioning.
Yeah, and also quit kicking the can. Let's resolve these issues that we're having for years and years. Let's address it. Let's fix it, and let's move forward. And doing so as fiscally prudent as possible. So in that process, making sure that the golf course is as viable as it can be.
You know, and it wouldn't be fair to those that have homes, you know, people bought homes 50 years ago, specific on the golf course, you know, he designed that, this community around that golf course, people bought homes there. You know, it's easy to say, well, we can just close it up and move on, but, you know, that's not really, I don't think that's fair for the people that bought the properties, expecting a golf course. So, yeah, I've always had my doubts about it and concerns about it, but I think we're at a point now we can actually do something to make it work.
Yeah.
So, that's.
In regards to this subject matter, we have people out there that consider themselves citizen journalists. And I, for one, is a free speech promoter. And I have invited individuals to come to these meetings and speak. So rather than slander the members of this board or any employee in the district, come with the receipts. Don't talk about it on social media. Come to the meeting, show us the documentation, and let's move on. If you don't have that, you have two options. Either show up or don't, or keep doing what you're doing. But to take what is said at these meetings and twist it, hyperinflate it, and gaslight it, so you have a following of 2,000 people, it's ludicrous. At the start of this meeting, I talked about accountability and transparency. This is exactly what we're talking about. Without conversation and discussion in the public and being able to ascertain and understand what our discussion is about, it's critical that our constituents understand. But if you're out there shelling out misinformation, untruths, and gaslighting certain subject matters and individuals, you're doing the residents and the taxpayers of Pueblo West Metro District an injustice. You have the right to free speech, but you do not have the right to yell fire in a crowded theater when there is no fire. Thank you.
I got questions. So how much are we owed? $1 million? Just the water?
1.2.
$1,279,828. That's all water bill.
That's all the water.
That's what's owed to us, right?
Mhm. It's unclear. I don't think we've gotten a real number from county as far as how much they're owed.
As far as their, I don't think it was a specific number. I think it was an estimate in the 3 million
Sounds
ballpark
about right.
range. And then the only other debt that could be owed to the district comes with exercising rights to purchase, or rights and options for land that were part of the original agreement. Any land that we decide we don't want to exercise a right to retain, those, whatever the value of the land was at the time of the IGA as it was evaluated, become additional debts. But those have, I'll double check. I think there's some that are currently not exercised, but there's a couple that have not yet hit their expiration, or they did recently, last couple of years.
I read this IGA, but I don't remember seeing it. Isn't there something in this that says once we're paid back, something to do with ownership?
Yep.
Our piece?
We're then equal members of the county. Right now, county owns it, even though we paid them, right? That's $6 million.
Yeah, Article 9, ultimate ownership of the golf course. Like me to read it, or?
Yeah, go ahead, 9-1.
Yeah.
The parties understand and agree that the ownership of the golf course is currently and will be in the future subject to the complete repayment and retirement of certificates of participation, which was the annual lease payment, transaction entered into by the county to allow for the purchase of the golf course, as well as any loans made to the enterprise by either or both the county and the district, and that refers to the water loan and any of the land. Upon the complete retirement of the certificates of participation and the repayment of all loans and any indebtedness of the enterprise, the title ownership of the golf course shall be transferred to joint and general ownership of the county and the district. It goes on to talk about other provisions, but that's the substance.
Okay, so then that water is in play.
And I think one of the biggest thing right now, of course, is their irrigation system. But that's costing us in water, you know, Pueblo West is costing us a lot of water.
So we lent them money, why did we lend them money for water?
Except the
No,
time
they didn't
weren't-
pay, they didn't pay the water bill.
They just didn't pay
We
the
just
water
supplied water, and they didn't pay it, and it becomes a loan.
Okay, so this
Yeah.
was
This was years ago.
years ago.
They've been paying the water bill for,
2011.
'Cause
since
now-
2011? Okay.
Okay.
And
Man,
they're
what a funky
paying,
agreement.
they're paying for that $60 million loss that they have,
60 million gallon.
or
Yeah,
60
to the
million
water.
gallon.
At the rate identified by the IGA.
Yeah, which is the rate, I think it's what, 179 a gallon right now for water supplied to the golf course. And that's not anything
Per thousand.
that this board can do other than evaluate electricity, what it costs to deliver the water to them.
And it is raw water.
It's raw water, it's not treated. So, that's always been kind of, there were years where it wasn't being charged adequately, in some boards' minds, so, you know, it's always something to talk about.
When was the leak discovered?
They've had leaks for years,
Or the one that's gonna cost $5 million or whatever?
well, that's replacing
That's a
the
full
entire,
replacement.
The
that's the
entire
entire
system.
irrigation
That's just,
system.
so that's more of a.
50-plus-year-old irrigation system.
Yeah, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, it leaks
more of
all
a
over the
capital
place.
thing.
Yes.
But we did some tests I think it was last summer,
Yeah, I think you're right.
to try to determine how much was leaking into the ground, and it's running downstream, so it affects, you know, it also has the possibility of affecting homes, basements and stuff that are in the downward slope of the golf course, so there's, that's a pressing issue, and we could use the water. And that's a lot of homes. I think it's 226 homes, is what it figured out to be.
Sounds about right.
But you turn it into a park, you're not saving the water. You're still gonna have to fix the irrigation system.
Yeah.
So,
So what are our options to force the county to pay?
So we're kinda,
What is necessary?
we're kinda jumping ahead just to talk about it last meeting, but, on Friday, it sounds like we're making a decision on who the, manager will be moving forward after March, when the current one retires.
Oh, yeah, that got rescheduled, didn't it?
Friday, for Friday.
Oh, man.
And then, you know, again, part of trying to take action in order to resolve the issues at hand, you know, we're pushing to get the irrigation. I can never remember the term they use. It's not the or IFB or RFP.
RFQ?
What
For the Desert Hawk manager?
what were they calling that?
RFQ for qualification.
No, not for the manager, for the irrigation system.
invitation for bid?
No.
Scope of the project, the ROM, no, it's.
Something of magnitude, right?
Rough order,
Magnitude.
ROM, rough
Yeah,
order of magnitude.
Magnitude was the terminology used.
It's
Yeah, it's
generally
another.
a step before a true opinion of probable
I
cost.
felt like Greg
Another
there in the whole
piece.
meeting going, "God, another acronym." So anyway, moving forward with actually trying to define what this is going to cost, because right now we're basically utilizing an engineering report that's estimated that it's gonna be $5.3 million to fix. That's obviously not the actual cost or the bid of what it would cost to fix this issue and put in a new irrigation system. So once we have those definitive numbers, then we can move forward with figuring out exactly how we're gonna pay for it, utilizing the enterprise funds, utilizing the potential water savings and the cost of that, and putting that towards the yearly loan payments. What was the other thing?
increasing the.
Any savings we can come up with, right down to gas.
So when we're talking about the loan payment,
$3 a round.
Yeah, adding a fee, an additional fee to help pay for the irrigation system through rounds of golf and so forth. Looking at everything. Again, trying to make the golf course self-sustaining, so it doesn't affect the taxpayers anymore.
right, and the golf course, is almost identical scenario that we had with the swim pool. So now we're working on an aquatic center, we're working on getting the sprinkler system, repaired for the golf course. But when we talk about loans at our golf course committee, those are loans that the county's assuming.
Well,
Okay?
The enterprise will pay them back.
Right, exactly. So, I just wanna make that clear that the sheer numbers that are being spoke of, okay, do not reflect upon the Metro District financially. Okay, we have input because of, the location
The IGA.
in the intergovernmental agreement. So,
I-
with that being understood, Pueblo County maintains the golf course, and the enterprise pays for everything else, with its, operation.
Well-
Golf course, golf carts, being requisitioned, paying the employees, all that. I mean, they're pretty transparent with their financial reports and how much money they are making each year, each quarter. And with the golf course manager getting ready to retire, I think it was back in September, I asked that we escalate it and have a meeting every month. And we've been doing so. But at the same time, we have not compromised our position on that committee. I want to assure you of that.
So I'm more inclined to want to, and I'm not on the committee, but I watched the last meeting that you guys had. I'm more inclined to want to renegotiate the IGA from the stamp, because when you look at that 4.9, so how the revenues need to be divvied out and what order. Item B could be almost indefinite. Cash expenditures, which includes all expenditures for golf course maintenance, so that's probably gonna include the sprinkler system repair,
Is that something
Which
Carl
who
could
knows?
look at?
which who knows that when that's gonna be.
I think that might fall under C. So if you think of 4.9B, the cash expenditures,
I
that's
mean, either way, we're at D.
more their operating, yeah, that's fair. C is talking about those capital projects, which carry over for anything that would be associated with it. It could be both, to be fair.
And then you have the,
Either way,
any
it's
carryover
before
that needs to be
D.
saved to pay for the next sprinkler
So I
system.
mean, and the golf courses, when was this thing built? I don't know.
I believe it finished, I think the first 9 holes were just before the strategic or the service plan, so 1972-ish. The second 9 holes came afterwards. It's my understanding.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
so deferred maintenance, capital costs, continuous, and we're just, they're not gonna be the ones that say, hey, are you ready to take ownership of this? Right? I mean, they're probably not gonna be.
They say in the county?
Yeah. I can't
Ideally,
imagine
it
there
becomes a
being any-
joint ownership.
It's joint ownership.
It's joint ownership, right.
Right now,
Which I get that,
it's,
but what I'm saying is they're not gonna, I can't imagine that they're in any rush to make this a joint ownership.
Why not?
Is what I'm getting at.
That means that the district would be compelled to pay for operation costs.
yeah, so right now, the county is on the hook for any expenses over revenue.
Yeah, we don't have to.
So for
contribute
years,
at all.
I'm assuming the county has been supporting the golf course until they became profitable.
So then we don't want ownership. So what you guys.
You don't wanna that's why you don't wanna, at this point, I don't think you wanna renegotiate, because it has also been mentioned that renegotiating the IGA, it was mentioned, you know, they're gonna forgive their loans, they want us to forgive our loans. I'm not sure that that's a good idea.
Right.
If you can make it profitable, this
They do
really
it.
doesn't matter,
Right.
okay? Repayment will come, but at least you're not putting any more money into it. We don't get paid back the money for the debt service, that's not part of it. You know, that now has become an asset on our books, that $6 million has become an asset. They're not gonna repay that, though, so we're looking at the 1.2 million, and if they get to the point where they're profitable and they can do that, that's better than forgiving the loan, forgiving it. And
Yeah.
right now, we don't, I think they've contributed an extra 3.5 million, isn't it, roughly?
The estimates have been between 3 to 3.5.
Yeah, for, and they
Capital
pay, right
expenses.
now, they pay the employees that do, they pay part of the shop expenses, the employees out of the shop. They pay some expenses that the enterprise doesn't pay.
Yeah, and my understanding is there are certain associated personnel costs with maintaining and running it, but I
Mhm.
don't to be honest with you, I don't quite know the breakdown
Yeah.
of how that has, and I think we've asked for that clarity about.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to get, that's one thing that I'm kind of disgruntled at is
It was a
the flow
challenge.
of information.
It was a challenge just to get budget numbers.
Yeah.
And actual expenses this year. I mean, that's,
The IGA.
so we're making a lot of progress, so to speak, on
Yeah.
the accountability. Christians, helped us implement, bylaws, which the board didn't previously have. Just to help govern the actions and keep everybody on task.
Yeah.
It's been pretty loose, which has been the most difficult about this joint venture. And I'm probably with you, you and I are probably thinking alike, like if it was just one person's, if the IGA was redone, it was just one entity's ownership, you'd probably get a lot more done a lot quicker. But,
Facing their budget deficit, they're not gonna wanna take on full, you know, I mean, I guess they have it now, but I mean, at least we're joint owners and.
yeah, they couldn't pass the 6 million.
Yeah.
Or
So,
7.
Yeah, just getting them to adhere to this is you know, we're supposed to have a budget, proposed budget from the golf course manager by July. I don't, did we ever get it?
Believe not.
I don't think we ever got it this year, and we asked for it. We may have gotten it late.
I think the discussion was last time that is, March is our deadline. We would like to have a new golf course manager, along with a new liquor license. I think was spoke of.
It's just
And
been a
that-
challenge.
and that golf course, yeah, it has been a challenge, and that's why I asked that we just escalate it. And try to stay on top of it, so that way things can just march right along, rather than get slowed down by the wheels of governments and holidays in between.
Is it okay if I share a little bit?
Go for it.
Both
Yeah,
context
and
and
then I
then,
was gonna let
oh yeah, he's coming.
Brian say something,
Unless you wanna
he's
start.
chomping at the bit.
Would you like to start? So, quick context, just and I won't belabor, but the Golf Course Management Board probably over some time has not been required to probably do as much as they have to now, because historically they have not been profitable. They have not run revenue over expense. And so the primary responsibility of the Golf Course Management Board is to make the golf course successful. So all those board members or Board of County Commissioners appointed to it, they're not there to negotiate the terms of the IGA, they're not there to talk about the district or the county, they're really there to make sure that the golf course is managed properly. They have one direct report, which is their golf course manager, in this case Mike Zaremba, who is the one we've talked about as potentially, he's retiring, there'll be another one selected. So this board and the Board of County Commissioners and all the appointees that have arrived at that Golf Course Management Board are now undertaking the task of what aligns with what is in our strategic plan for Desert Hawk, which is make it a successful, sustainable operation to cover its own expenses in addition to ideally covering long-term capital expenses for the golf course. The irrigation system is the #1 biggest issue when it comes to that. There's a couple topics I do want to touch on as far as getting board feedback, or at least stimulate some of the discussion. The irrigation system, I think when we think of the IGA exists as it is, historically, and I think conventionally we think of it as it is probably favorable at this time for the district to maintain the IGA as it is, because it's not coming at a cost to the district. us engaging in that, appointing people, evaluating and responding to things, really comes at the counties and the enterprises' pockets when it comes to any challenges that they may have, and there's not that liability for the district itself. Which is why it doesn't say in the strategic plan we have to necessarily go to joint ownership. It just identifies that we want to have some conversation of what long-term it looks like because of the repayment plan. If you think of why those are outlined in 4.9 as they are, A, obviously, is because we have a debt owed to a bank for the lease payments. B is golf course needs to operate. Ideally, it's capital fund as well. C is recognizing that carryover capital is still funding and maintaining the golf course. D, before anything else after that, is, hey, there are debts owed by the golf course, they start repaying those back. Realistically, if it's making 100 to 200,000 over, and it probably has a capital project management plan that requires probably more than that per year to build up a fund for it, we're not going to see those payments anytime soon. Even if you dedicated it now, that's still almost $5 million for what could be 200,000 per year. That's a 50-year, not longer, repayment plan to get the joint ownership. So realistically, as we talked about at the joint meeting at one point, I don't remember if it was this board or not, that golf course joint ownership thing is not necessarily what's prioritized right now. It's making sure it's sustainable. And for us, because we don't contribute anything else, the question comes up is the water loss and the irrigation system. Is that something that the district wants to push, progress, contribute? What does that look like? Because we recognize there is a water loss that's impacting our residents, our ratepayers and taxpayers, and what could that be a benefit for? So that's probably the first thing as far as this board. It doesn't have to be tonight, but that's where one of the discussion points are. And then the second point for me is a question about the golf course management board appointees. And I'll share a little bit of history of my understanding is that historically it was 7 appointees. It doesn't describe in the IGA specifically board, it has to be board members, non-board members. They just have to be, I believe, residents, but I could be wrong on that. But it just has to be joint appointee 1, 3 appointees from the county, 3 appointees from the district. Historically, from my understanding, is that they have had challenges appointing people. And so a lot of people have served consistently for term after term after term. Sometimes that's the benefit, sometimes not. What recently happened, and this is before this board's time, and I think even the previous board's time, is there was discrepancy on one appointee. There used to be 3 county commissioners, 3 board members, and a joint. When that discrepancy came up about the joint one of the county commissioners resigned their post. That person moved over into that. Then there were 2 public ones, and then it was essentially 2 and 2, and I think a third at some point for 3 public. It has now migrated back to 3 county commissioners, 3 board members, and that joint appointee is neither elected officials representative. I noticed at this last meeting, there's a challenge that occurs because we have 2 boards with elected, essentially quorums involved in that, 1 non, and then I think a misunderstanding of who and how they operate because there's a little bit of overlap. So for instance, that board really only has 1 person they can direct any direction to. That's Mike Zaremba, the golf course manager. That is that board's employee to act as agent. Otherwise, they have tasks themselves they can undertake. But a lot of questions come to staff with the district or the county. And then we have a county team that can identify, hey, we want our county representatives to follow up. We have some district board members who can say, hey, we want our district manager or chief operating officer, Carol, who was there at the time, to answer questions, direct them. And I think it creates a little bit of what could potentially be a concern about making sure that we're holding that one golf course manager accountable within the constraints of what that management board could do. And the progress of the potential, and I don't think it's I'll share this honestly, I don't think it's criticism of our side, but the prioritization of the folks coming to that and recognizing a balance of priorities as elected officials makes it challenging for the Desert Hawk to receive probably the attention that it should. Because at the end of the day, the balancing of priorities of a Desert Hawk golf course, maybe $2 million at most versus a $100 million budget, probably does not rise to that level of the attention that it probably deserves at this point. Mm-hmm. So that has been my notice of, it's a little bit of process confusion, and then a concern that maybe there is a proposed better way to be able to approach it, so that way what I think everybody wants to accomplish, which is progress, seeing that accountability, seeing the progress of the golf course move forward, could be done without tripping the old concern, which is reappointing the same personnel all the time, or feeling like that the elected officials and elected bodies almost have to be predominantly involved to make that happen. So that was a lot of words, but.
Did you say that Mike Zimmer is an employee of the county?
No, he's the one employee of the Golf Course Management Board.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yes, he's their contract, just as I am equivalent to you.
For that clarification.
I think you summarized that pretty well. I mean, that's been the concern, at least on our end, is, you know, we kept hearing that, you know, such and such was on the agenda, it just keeps getting pushed, and there's been no progress and no accountability. And I think that's why last year, a lot of the board members, including myself, wanted to go ahead and jump on it and try to get us on track. We've had some successes and some not. It's like a lot of things. It's kind of hard being in the position that we're in with the manager leaving. And while he's a good person and seems to be responsible, we can't lean on him to keep looking at the best best interest of the golf course when he's looking to retire. Some decisions have to be made by the board. It just has to happen. And then with the new board, with the new manager, there's going to have to be some guidance from the board in order to move in the right direction, in order to sustain itself and be profitable. I understand where you're coming from as far as, especially speaking for myself in those meetings, I'm always looking for answers. And we seem to lean a lot on county for those answers, even though they're not our employees as being a Metro Board member. But yeah, it's a very odd situation, being on the joint board and with no real authority, and just like being on this board, it's just difficult. No real authority. We're just 1/5 of an Oreo cookie, if you will. Doesn't amount to much by ourselves. So, it's always a challenge.
It is, but I think there has been some progress made. I think, and I think it's just been inattentiveness on the county. Like you said, it's not a big fish to contend with, so it kind of, not much focus is put on that. And we're trying, I think, as a board, as representatives, trying to put more pressure on accountability. We want reports and we want to know what's going on so that wise decisions can be made. And I think we all try to go that direction. And I do appreciate you guys jumping in with information that, historical. So we're doing the best we can, folks, with what we have, and we're trying to make it successful. So
I would definitely echo both points of that, because I think this board getting more involved, or the Golf Course Management Board getting more involved, has helped. Zermba is retiring, understanding that his successor probably will need that experience and guidance from the board as it is probably valuable, because I think that changing anything major, if we even looked at it, would just cause more probably conflict and confusion. The thing I think I would encourage, and this is the novel concept, and I talked to Spina a little bit about this, the county manager. If there were folks strategically appointed to that board who are either in the county or the district as staff members, who have a buy-in of, hey, this operation needs to be successful, and they have ties to the accountability on either side of it, I think there could be value to that. They're more comfortable, more focused on the processes for their own sides of the house, and not losing the elected officials. So an example might be one county commissioner, one board member, each side, one staff member, and then one joint appointee that is public, and then your last two might be either staff members, elected officials, or other public members, depending on preference. But I think that tie and loss of a staff from either side to actually translate the actions that are feasibly going to come from either side of it, the analysis side from us, or the RFP, the accountability of procurement from the county, might have some benefit to seeing those things produced as far as action.
Speaking for myself, I'd be okay with that. We're just going to lean on you more to get it done, because that's the whole reason why we wanted as many board members on that committee as possible.
Yeah, I think my hope is that aligns with the idea of getting the progress, and I would probably appoint somebody or recommend somebody to be appointed That may be why he's sitting there right now.
Okay.
Finally.
And that's where I'll transition now. But I do think that there's value, because those folks are accustomed, when it comes to like an RFP question that comes up, they will understand it a lot clearer and be able to help action it on their side. Or in our case, be able to understand the overall operation of the district and be able to forward exactly what the board is saying is their strategic vision or plan direction when it comes to it. So they may be helpful in seeing that, and I think they're very comfortable knowing it. For instance, if the next mic comes, they'll be able to hold that person accountable in a way that's probably driven towards what their responsibilities already are, rather than asking multiple elected officials to say, you have to hold another individual in another sphere of influence accountable.
So wouldn't that be something that you'd have to also get the county to do?
Yes. So full disclosure, I think, and I would agree, that this board and Golf Course Management Board should stay probably for, if not a full year, 6 months, to say this next transition, there is that rotation and that they do it, and then consider whether it's January of next year, in the future, an agreement between both boards, say, we want this golf course to be obviously sustainable and profitable. What's the best way to ensure that this Golf Course Management Board is set up for success to be able to do that, and evaluate, can we draw down so it's not two quorums looking at each other and then involved as much as may take them away from other responsibilities.
Yeah, because the IGA doesn't say that it has to be either county commissioner or.
That's not.
Right.
And technically, I think myself and I think their public works director are ex officio members. That just means we help answer questions, but we have no voting power. We can offer our insight, but not have any power towards it.
So if the count, from my understanding and from, not getting things on time and it taking 6 months to get, a lack of prioritization on the county's part, does it make sense? And would they consider just giving full ownership to us, considering their state?
Well, I'm sure they would be more than happy to get rid of.
More importantly, do we want to do that?
Yeah, no, I don't. I don't think that that's a good move at this point. Maybe at some point, but I think they would give us the golf course in a heartbeat.
I think that's fair.
They've spent money.
Go ahead. There's an argument of what's the best for the community, of who manages, operates, and is driven towards making sure the golf course is successful. I would not say that this Golf Course Management Board or the IGA negates that. I don't think that it's providing us, in this opinion, it's creating a situation where it's not being managed or it's not being done in the best interest of it. I think the long-term success brings up that question, though, of the idea of, like, it is a Pueblo West asset and a Pueblo County asset. Who is best positioned to manage it? Who's best positioned to operate it long-term? Who will have the most stake? Just like we had conversations about the roads, and the question ultimately came to funding and responsibility. This one at least is tied to our service plan. It does mention the golf course, and we do Parks and Recreation. So there's a conversation to be had about that falling under the service purview. I tell you, Carol's not happy about anything I'm saying. Yeah, or water. But the idea of, like, operating and managing it, and to your points, making sure that those things are given to task and followed up on in a way that's very much an impact, I think there is a conversation for that. But to President Vickers' point, the current situation is one that the county would like to divest themselves, I imagine. And I don't think that it's necessary to make sure it's sustainable at this point. Again, opinion.
Sorry, Brian.
I'm good.
You and I think a lot alike, so I'm also leaning in that direction, realizing that it would probably cost the district a couple $100,000 a year to do it. But it would be so much easier to manage than what we're currently doing.
But that's only because the enterprise board isn't doing its job. The county, the enterprise board is supposed to be running the golf course. So they don't have to defer to whatever the county wants.
The $1 million question is then why isn't it though? And why
I think Christian probably hit the nail on the head, to some degree. You have two elected bodies that are sitting there, government moves slow, right? I mean, that's not necessarily a good thing all the time, but, yeah, I mean, it might be worth exploring that scenario.
Fair enough.
But the enterprise board is supposed to be running it. Shouldn't be worried about what the county has to say or the metro board necessarily has to say. They're
Yeah, it's one
trying
of
to
those
make-
things where it's not ours.
Yeah, I know it's
Not
really weird.
Yeah,
It's a
it's
weird
odd.
setup,
Yeah.
because we did pay for it, half of it.
Half of it.
But we are not paying any other expenses, and it can stay that way until the 1.279 is paid back. So that's kind of not a bad scenario, right? Except
What if
nothing
they
else.
stop paying their water bill?
What's that?
What if they stop paying their water bill again?
The grass dies.
But then it goes to the point of, okay, are you gonna let that happen to the community and the people that live? you know,
They
it's the
don't,
same,
I don't think they will stop paying their water bill.
but they did before.
They never were, they didn't stop paying it. They never made
They
enough
couldn't
money
afford
to
it,
pay
yeah, until
They
recently.
didn't make any money. That was the loan. It wasn't, they had no money to pay it with, so it became a non-interest bearing loan.
The only thing I would wager based on questioning the idea of why hasn't the golf course management board held that accountable and done it? The only thing I would add is probably that the definition of what their ultimate success, what they see as their prime objective, I think historically has not been clear and may have changed over time. For instance, when they had no money, their objective was probably just make sure it doesn't burn down, it doesn't catch on fire, nothing wrong happens. Like eventually, obviously, trying to make more revenue over time, but there wasn't an impetus of what to do and what defined success until they ran into a situation where either by the management of the board, the management of the golf course manager, that it started being successful, and now the accountability. If you think of it as like how much time and energy we're going to devote to a failing project in lieu when the county is subsidizing any loss of revenue over the expense, and our role in just making sure that the golf course manager holds us accountable for all the reports or all the expectations of running the golf course probably wasn't the impetus for it until they started making the revenue over expenses. And now we are seeing at least that drive, even from previous boards, of like, hey, what happens next? Now we are revenue over expense. But their definition of success might just be in the green by $1. Just make sure we're there, versus now we have at least the involvement of saying it's not just $1. It's ideally to pay for long-term capital expenses of the golf course over time, so it doesn't have to take out those debts from either entity. And then it comes to the question of, well, then what about the debt it already has? So the definition of success might have changed over time. That's nothing.
And the rounds played they seem to be steadily increasing, and that has to do with the fact of affordability. You know, the board could look at raising rates a little bit somewhere, maybe not, if they're gonna implement the $3 fee. You know, there's things to shuffle around, but we're getting a lot of players from Springs come down to play because it's less expensive than playing in Springs. So I think they're sitting in a pretty good position. It can probably be tweaked a little bit to optimize revenue, but I don't think that it's not going the other way. That's
Yeah.
a good thing. They're redoing the kitchen. I think they have redone the kitchen. That was one of somebody made a comment, they didn't even know there was a kitchen. They do, they have,
Yeah, so
they have a restaurant there, you know, you can go and eat, and it's not bad. So people should explore that, because it's not a bad place to eat, so.
So, in regards to the kitchen remodel, the requisitions are being drawn up to acquire the equipment and the flooring, and Pueblo County is installing the equipment. So that came at a cost savings and it came under budget. Is that correct, Brian?
Came in, they chose the best IFB, the best cost for the project. We awarded that at the last meeting.
I think we were looking at
All-
$60,000
all local.
originally, and it came in at like 57 and some change
Yeah, That's-
total.
that's just prudent estimation.
But that's coming out of the enterprise money.
That's correct.
Correct.
Neither
Yeah.
the county or Pueblo West is contributing to that.
It's going out of pure profit.
I
Okay.
think we should hear from Brian, he's been sitting there patiently.
I'm so sorry.
Lay it on us, man.
You had a whole
No,
presentation.
One, I'll commend this board because you are correct. A lot of it has been kicking the can down the road. And so I've seen a lot of progress. Just momentarily shut an email. Oh, sorry. One of the things I talked to Christian about today is rechanging the framework of this problem. And it's not a golf problem. It's a water structure, infrastructure problem of efficiencies. Because if we were leaking 60 million gallons anywhere else in the district, we would fix it.
Yep.
And that 60 million gets lost. Yeah, it's 100,000 for current rates. It's 372 homes. It's 186 acre feet of water. On the current market, that is $22 million. So it's easier to fix leaks than it is to expand water capacity, which is our number one strategic priority.
Yep.
Is water capacity. It's 372 homes, right? The key to, I think, switching the framework is that opens up federal funding because it's waterworks infrastructure and efficiency. They won't fund a golf course, but they'll fund, if we can get grants, that's part of it. Because I think Director Vickers is absolutely right. We're not, as he said, maybe it's $2 here that they talked about at the last board meeting, a water feed thing. And that gets us $50,000, $60,000, and we get 100,000 here. The problem is, I always joke, it's if I had a car, I could get a job, but I don't have a car because I don't have a job. And with the value of that water is just, I think we really just need to attack it, and I think this board is. If we took that 60 million in a perfect world, then treated it, and then opened it up to industries, and we have some industries that are wanting to come here that are very high water use that currently we can't support, it's $533,000 in revenue towards us at our highest tier. Now, okay, that's probably not gonna materialize, but every year we're looking at between $130,000 and $530,000 value of water. So I think we really just need to keep that pressure on, but I just would encourage that we start really looking at it, not so much a golf program, because as President Vickers said in the opening, none of us here are getting anything out of the golf course. But we are, as a community, if we get water, we can build homes. I mean, 372 taps it, I don't know what our current tap rate is. Just say 25 grand, right? 25 grand times 372. Christian's off tonight. But we just realize there's a ton of value out there, and that's where I think we're starting to, as Director Axworthy said, I think the can's been kicked down the road a lot, but I think we're finally seeing that. But there's a huge value in just the water alone, and I really think we just need to keep that pressure on, and keep that pressure on the county too.
11,160,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And 22 million a share, so we're at $33 million.
Yeah.
So, and I know that's the profit. Nobody has $5 million. It's a no-brainer, except you don't have the $5 million.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's a hard problem. That's the difficulty.
Yeah.
Everybody knows the answer, but nobody has the money, and I think that's the difficulty and the problem.
And I think the way the county's attacking it with that, what was that key term? Magnitude?
Order of magnitude,
Yeah, order of magnitude. We've got the engineering report, we just haven't put it to test as far as somebody coming out and giving us some actual solid estimates,
Yeah.
without throwing a proposal out there.
Yeah.
So.
I just saw it as another layer.
I'd never heard of that before until the other day.
One more layer.
What about you, Brian?
Yeah, one more layer, man. One more delay.
But I was like, hey, that makes all the sense in the world. And
That
if we
works.
need additional information beyond
great.
that engineering report, they're gonna tell us.
Yeah.
So, cause that report's paid for already.
Yep.
But we don't want anything to come by this, 2020 hindsight. And we're in the middle of a restoration phase on a sprinkler system or a total new rebuild. And, oh, wait a minute, we missed something here. So, yeah, I like the way the county's attacking it. They got a new guy in appropriations? Procurement, right, yeah. So, he's been on with the county for about 4 or 5 months now. And And he's got great ideas. I'm impressed.
So what do we do? Ryan?
Powerball tickets.
No, I think you're right. If you look at the $5 million, yes, that's a large amount, but if you look at breaking it down through loan payments, it's doable. I mean, we're gonna have to piece together some cost savings here and there as well as the revenue from year to year. And there's gonna have to be some sort of supplement, at a small level, probably between both entities. But it's doable. And as you said, it has so much more value to us than just that $5 million. So it needs to happen. And you are more than welcome to take my seat on the committee.
And I know it came up during the golf course management board. We were trying to figure out what a loan payment would look like. At the $5.3 million, 4.35% annual interest rate for 20 years. That's about a $402,000 annual payment.
It's cheaper than I thought.
So it was less than we thought.
Yeah. That's definitely doable. You take their annualized net revenue and the cost savings.
It's
There.
doable.
It's doable right there.
Yeah.
You tack on some.
I mean, just the
additional
plain,
fees
the
from the
sheer
cards.
numbers and everything,
Yeah.
it was doable.
Yep.
So that's the direction we're headed.
Yep.
Hopefully to make everybody happy. But that water's, yeah.
Now I don't even wanna golf.
That's a big deal.
Ever.
That's a big deal.
What do we got?
Anything else on this topic? Let's see, buy lottery tickets. No here. So each of us go home and buy.
Brian's gonna send you a link, you can do
I
it.
have no luck, man. I dropped at least $200 on lottery tickets.
I do want to, I apologize, correct myself and take all the energy out of the room. That was the principal, not the interest. So that is about 872,000. We're back to where we thought.
Okay,
5.3.
for 5.3. I think originally we were talking like 765 during the meeting.
Okay, nothing else. We'll do public comments. We should have a ton.
There have been no public comments submitted.
Unfortunate.
You'll get an email later.
How many meetings has that been consecutive that we haven't had public comments? Anybody keeping track of that?
We've had public comments that have come in or been submitted, but this would be the last couple maybe that haven't been submitted. We've had many that have come in person.
Okay.
Okay, next is board
Thank you.
member and district manager closing comments. We'll start with Christian.
I don't think I had anything to cover unless there were any questions. I know you shared some of the agenda items for the next meeting. I think established that.
Right, that's just for the next meeting.
So nothing at this time.
Okay, we'll start with Mr. Pasternak.
No comment. Thanks.
Rod? Me?
I have two things. One I'm concerned about. It's a concern. I'm not sure. I'm sure somebody in here with all the bright minds we have in here is about the 1% for the roads. And if the county is in debt, where is that 1% going? For our sales tax to be presented to our roads. Is that money being saved for our purposes, or is that money being absorbed into the county debt?
So I could share that 1% sales tax for 6C is dedicated specifically for the ballot language. So they're using that for generally operating expenses for the roads in Pueblo West, and it can't be used for any other purpose. So
We have to document it.
yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure. This
Yep, and as they identify any deficits, that money can't be used for any other purposes.
That's a clarification to the public as well, because I had a little bit of concern about that. And then this is something that's just nitpicky to me, because I think you mentioned something about the Facebook stuff that's going on or something like that, trying to engage our social media stuff and doing policies on that and that. I for one, I know the public may not be happy about it, but I for one is like, well, we don't have to have a Facebook page, all intents and purposes. That being said, we have a way to have the public come in and be engaged in ways that we don't have to provide that kind of stuff if it comes down to that. Just saying, that's just my opinion. thought process.
Just to share, I think that when we go through this policy review and the board ultimately provides feedback, that can absolutely be a conversation.
Okay, it was just something you shared with us, and I just thought to myself, like, I mean, if it's gonna be more of a nuisance than it is, beneficial, they can come in the old-fashioned way.
I'm not trying to throw you under the bus or anybody else, but just so that you know, this board in a public meeting has not ever approached you about shutting off the Facebook leads.
Correct.
Correct? This
Correct.
board was not, we weren't the driving force in
Right.
that.
No,
so-
right.
I'll share this was independent, as far as a management staff, perspective, because we do have an old policy from the board, not about shutting it down or anything, but there were concerns about that old policy and what was actually enforceable when it came to consistent application. If somebody comments something, can you remove it, for instance? And then as identified in the video, the idea of what we're doing during this policy review time is allowing an opportunity to actually gather information, deliver it to the board. So this was ultimately my decision when it came to identifying that this might be the best way to approach it in the meantime while we're doing that policy review.
I'm okay with that. I just wanted to say, worst case scenario, if it's more of a burden or the people are more, then if they're gonna be participants in that manner, then they can come in the old fashioned. I don't know, it's just.
I agree.
I remember reading the rules, when I signed up for my Facebook page when I was running. You can't delete comments.
Oh, no, I
You
understand that. It's part of the public record.
Right, but you can, remove the ability for people to comment. So you're just posting information, that's all you're doing.
Gotcha.
As long as you're consistent, you're not.
Right.
You're not being,
Gotcha.
discriminatory one way or the other.
When we get to that, I was just something that I was thinking about. So.
Understood.
Other than that, that's all I have to say. I appreciate everybody's hard work. Really good. I think we had a really good meeting today.
Ms. Roberts?
I just want to say congratulations to Randy Lennon sitting over there in the corner
Yeah.
for being appointed to the 6C committee.
He looks
And,
thrilled.
Congratulations, Randy.
I'm just saying.
He always looks like
Love you, Randy.
Smile, you're on candid camera.
Randy was forthcoming with this information in group last Wednesday at church. And, no? Oh, is this one different?
It's different.
Oh, okay. I'll have to compare it what I got in the email from you, but needless to say, hopefully we'll be getting more information on our roads and all this stuff.
Yeah, looking at this, it looks like we need to scrutinize this a little bit more too.
Yeah, that's why, when I heard about the budget shortfalls, my heart sank.
Yeah.
It's like, ugh.
Brian, you have any closing comments?
I do not. Thank you, sir.
I don't either, but thank you, everybody that made reports and showed up, appreciate it. No, great meeting, thank you. Committee reports, pool committee, Director Roberts and President Vickers.
I thought it'd be appropriate if we put this on the next agenda. We have a pool committee meeting this Thursday on the 29th, and it'd be a better update.
I can get that added.
Okay, thank you.
That's fine, we didn't, tell you the truth, I can't remember what we covered.
I think,
I've got so many things going through
Director
here right
Roberts,
now.
I covered a little bit of it earlier,
Yep.
but
Yeah.
I think we're gonna have some better, up-to-date information after this Thursday's meeting.
Yeah, we didn't have any drawings or anything. I think we're gonna have some sketches or elevations and stuff at this coming meeting, so
Yes.
we'll have more. The last one was logistics, right? They talked
Well, we
about
had two
how
site
they
plans
were
and we
gonna,
chose B over A.
how they were gonna proceed
So.
in providing the information.
As far
What-
as
what
where
they
it's
were
on the
gonna-
lot?
Pardon me?
No.
As far as location on the lot?
Just a quick
No, design site plan.
capturing is that looked at the actual site plan, the facility plan, and adjusted any of the things that would be identified as, hey, whether it's more cost savings or hey, this is more beneficial. Went through that. Essendra presented two options of like a base, A and B, and the board leaned towards B. I honestly don't recall the specifics of what B was,
Okay.
but
Yeah,
that's
you
what
don't
was
have to-
that last one.
That's
Yeah.
good.
And then schedule of meetings and what was gonna occur. So,
I think a
yeah,
lot of it
the next-
was better utilization of space and location. And it made it, not only gives the appearance that it's more free-flowing through the administrative entrance to the pool area and the restrooms and changing rooms.
Right. We did
Okay.
change the
Yeah,
floor
so-
plan around a little bit.
Good,
Yeah,
good job.
So the next meeting is the Friday, isn't it?
Thursday,
Thursday,
29th,
29th. So yeah, we'll have more, should have more to report on then.
9 a.m. I'll have coffee made like last
The
night.
Economic Development Corporation Board Meeting, Mr. Pasternak.
Yep, so Petco's, is and has been working on several job opportunities, for the region. If they all went through, it'd be upwards of probably 800 jobs, roughly. Elected a new set of officers. Bob Leach is the new chairman. Petco and the city are still working out their relationship. And then I shared the water consultant report that we got with their board so that they understand we're not water bankrupt.
Okay.
That's it.
I was curious, after the last meeting, did that oil refinery company talk to Petco at all? Did you hear about that?
No, but I actually thought of the same exact thing and I suggested that to someone.
Yeah, 'cause there's rail right there.
Yeah,
I don't understand why they wouldn't be the
they
first.
should go there first. I
Carl,
agree.
have they
I was
met
just
any of
curious.
your expectations of your request?
I have not received anything. I understand Marcos may have received something. We had just a quick discussion about it, but I've not seen anything myself.
And I don't know, have we received anything on my request for an environmental impact study?
Katrina Peter, Chief Administrative Officer, and since Marcos and Matt are out, I will update that we have not received anything whatsoever as far as I'm aware. And so I had received information from Matt earlier today indicating that we haven't received anything further, so I don't think that there has been communication.
When I talked to Marcos, we had a sidebar before the meeting started. I think he said that he'd gotten a couple of resumes,
Okay.
and so that's all I know.
Maybe we'll have more next meeting.
That's the least of our concern.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next is 6C Quarterly Sales Tax Meeting. Brianne.
You didn't wanna try the last name?
I'll say it. It is Mangione.
Oh, they were very close.
Well, say.
Brianne Mignoni,
Mignoni.
District Clerk. Thank you though. President Vickers, I appreciate it. So our last meeting was on January 20th, so last Tuesday. And we had a full quorum, and like Director Roberts said, congratulations, Randy, for being elected to the committee. Even, yeah, you do look happy.
He's still smiling.
We went over a few different updates, as far as, you know, the chip and slurring, the overlay that had been completed, dust treatment on roads. They did, miles that had been done, so like the chip and slurring, for example, had been 6 miles. The overlay was 6.82, 24.2 was the dust treatment, and then they were talking about the surfacing and right-of-ways. Then they hired, someone that's gonna be helping out, as far as permit reviews, maintenance and planning out in Pueblo West. And Bill Francis is his name, so he was just, brought on as their newest employee out to specifically handle Pueblo West and provide those types of updates. Then, as you know, Christian provided in his DM update just some other information about the finalization of the FY25 is still underway for the county and things like that. And then they also provided the Q4 taxes update as well. We didn't have any citizen comments, and then it was a pretty quick meeting overall, so that's it.
I have one thing about the chip seal. So I go to Oasis Church, and they chip sealed all the way from Joe Martinez to McCulloch. But they did no improvement to the surface. It still has the same segmentation lines, the same dips, the same ruts, the same drainage problem. And they chip seal they just went over it, like, okay, we're gonna make it look good, but there was actually no improvement done to it, surface-wise, other than traction. Everything that was there before is still pre-existing, it's just a facelift.
Yep.
And to me, that's a waste of resource. As far as, they should have done some improvements before that chip seal, or you either chose the better location to do the chip seal, where those improvements would have had more desirable effects. Does that make sense? And I'll get you the road intersections and stuff later. Actually, I got it right here.
That's all.
Okay. Thank you, Brianne.
Yes, thank you.
Magnoni.
Thank you.
Next, we're gonna, is there any reason to go Desert Hawk Management Board meeting report?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. COA committee
Why
meeting, had a great, I had a meeting the 22nd, I was there, it went smooth. They, I think they had two new homes? Three new homes. Got those, taken care of. I believe one of them was a duplex. Two homes and a duplex, wasn't there? That's what I thought. No, I don't have any complaints this time. So, we're good to go. I am looking forward to the document for guidance for them. One thing I would like to maybe mention is the hearing processes and the finding and keeping track of that to some degree, as far as how it works out eventually. Maybe quarterly reports on successful fines. And then the other thing is, how much is it costing us to do this? I mean, you know, I don't know what smart idea to spend $10,000 to get 500 or 1,000, or, you know, I don't know. So I want to keep an idea of what's happening.
I think having a good handle on how much it costs, including our fees, is a good thing to do. It isn't necessarily a bang for the buck proposition, because a lot of it is intangibles in terms of community development.
Right.
But yes.
But it does impact the budgets and whatnot.
I don't think we have in our financial reports and statements to the board, I don't believe, well, we do have COA broken out as a separate cost center.
Yeah.
So that should be really easy to, and we can generate a report for you very quickly if that would be helpful.
All right, thank you.
I'll put that, take care of that right now.
Thank you.
You just cost us for the report, man. Way to go.
What?
I said you just cost us for that report.
You can click it.
I'm just teasing.
COA meeting, February 12th at 5:30 right here. Desert Hawk Management Board meeting at the County Commissioners Board Chambers on February 18th at 10:30. And Kites and Coffee, March 21st at 2 p.m. at the Civic Center Park. Wow. We're already
Already?
talking about March.
Dang.
We have
Just like yesterday, Joe was talking about that.
Yeah.
Joe Fleiss is good.
We have a 30-minute special Desert Hawk meeting for selection of a golf course manager this coming Friday at 10 a.m.
That's correct.
That's correct.
See,
I think those should be in person, but I don't have any. Anyway. That's it? Anything else? Motion?
Motion to adjourn.
second.
I have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.